September 11th, 2019 is 8:02.
This meeting has been posted and is being video recorded. Committee Member Boniface? Here. Committee Member Bassi?
Here.
Committee Member Bajnik?
Here.
Committee Member Warren?
Here.
Mayor Catherine?
Here. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remain standing for a moment of silence for families that have been affected and are still feeling the pain and the loss of September 11th. Do you have any changes or amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I can propose a change to have, after the public portion agenda items only, that committee, and also add healthy on the building department before the discussion items. Or if you want to put it in discussion, put
I mean, this is a surprise that we have somebody here for 49 East Passaic Street. We can move up 49 after our Bureau of Fire Code Enforcement discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just so you're aware, I have requested Mr. Buckner this evening
Right.
to discuss the future of the department. As you all know, he will be leaving at the end of the month, and I feel it's extremely important that he come here this evening to give us a good idea of what exactly his budget job is, and so this way we can take a decision as to how this wants to move forward. So, if at all possible, we can manage this, but I would greatly appreciate that. It's going to be part of my report, so it's too late for me to ask that. I just finished the agenda, so.
All right. So you want to add a topic, right? Let's add that right after 49 East Passaic. So beforehand. Is that okay?
It's fine.
So we're going property maintenance, Bureau of Fire Code Enforcement salary, 49 East Passaic Street. We're talking, you want to do building department, we'll just leave it as building department.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then it will continue with non-contractual employee hours. Okay, any other changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
All right, okay, all those in favor, let's do a roll call.
Committee Member Boniface?
Yes.
Committee Member Bassi?
Yes.
Committee Member Bajnik?
Yes.
Committee Member Warren?
Yes.
Mayor Catherine?
Yes. Okay, so, can I have a motion to open to the public? This is for, agenda item discussions only. So we have comments from members of the public that want to discuss any of the items that are actually listed on the agenda. So can I have a motion to open to the public?
Make a motion.
Second.
All right, and roll call.
Committee Member Boniface?
Yes.
Committee Member Bassi?
Yes.
Committee Member Bajnik?
Yes.
Committee Member Warren?
Yes.
Mayor Catherine?
Yes. Okay, any member of the public who would like to come forward and discuss agenda items, please come forward, state your name and address and your concern or question.
Heather Lum, Terrace Avenue. I don't see for the Tyson House, resolution 219-182. Will that be coming up tonight?
We're going to have a discussion, and there probably, maybe out of that will be a resolution. I don't know if it's going to be the same one, depending on how the discussion goes and what's changed in the resolution.
Can I ask, what was the reason for bringing that resolution as far as having a discussion with Ms. Healy that the auction may be delayed.
What do you mean? We had a discussion.
Somebody had a discussion with Ms. Healy that the auction may be possibly delayed,
Yeah, I did.
and under whose directive?
My own,
Why would you do that?
to do what's best for the town, to suggest to her that there might be a delay, that I was recommending a delay, and I presented a resolution.
But your directive from this committee was to have an auction on the 29th. And I think you caused a lot of confusion.
I wouldn't think so.
One of the real.
All right.
There was,
So the question is, why did our legal counsel engage in a conversation? I think he answered that question about trying to position the township with the best intent to recover as much money as possible. What else, what other questions?
there was a woman there that asked that the auction be held up for a few minutes, correct?
At the auction?
Yes,
Yes, there was a woman who left the room to make a phone call.
correct. She was calling her client
Yes,
who wanted to put a bid in for the house.
yes.
And apparently she was not given enough time to tell her that the auction was on.
Right.
Therefore, giving her an unfair advantage to even have a chance after apparently doing all kinds of inspections and spending money out of pocket. So I think that you may be on the hook for possibly reimbursing this woman.
Is she here tonight?
Don't think.
I mean, she can approach the township committee to submit what her concern
she
is.
can't.
But
She can't.
the issue is that the auction was at the exact published time
Right,
that we published 2 months? 2
right,
months ahead
but
of time?
because of
So
all the talk saying that there may or may not be an auction, it really caused a lot of confusion and it possibly caused the sale of the house. And I think it was done unfairly.
I don't think there was any confusion. When
Well,
do you
according
think the
to this
confusion was?
realtor, her client didn't get there in time to possibly bid on the house. That's confusion.
We did not change any of the parameters of that auction. It was at the same time that it was
When was
published in
Ms. Healy
advance.
told that the auction was going forward? At what point?
The
When we
auction was
published it.
always going forward. There was a discussion among the committee at my recommendation that the auction be postponed to allow a change in zoning. The Township committee chose not to do that.
Right, the
Either
night
we had-
before, you brought
No.
that resolution the night
You
before.
want me to finish or you want me not to finish?
Go ahead, I'm listening.
The time of the auction was 10 o'clock in the morning. People, if they had serious interest, they had an obligation to be there. Just like another bidder showed up with a personal check. When the bid notice said you had to have a certified check. So you can't protect people from their own failure to attend to details.
And
And we waited 20 minutes or whatever we waited. How long, what's a fair
Right.
time? It's
we
a
did,
bid. It's a specific procedure in the bidding law.
It
we
was an
did wait while
interference.
the agent went to contact her client. She was unable to get her on the phone. She came back in, she stated
Right.
that she was unable to get her client. And the auction concluded.
Right, she was waiting for a phone call to see whether or not the auction would be going forward on the 29th. That's my understanding.
So who did she ask to call her about the auction?
Maybe you should ask Ms. Healy, she's here. Maybe she would know better.
Did you indicate to any of the clients that, or any of the potential buyers, that the auction may not happen?
No, I didn't, but just maybe it would make you feel better. That person that you're talking about, I know exactly who you're talking about, she's still interested
Right,
in the property.
and she should have been there to bid.
People who also came but were not
Right,
properly prepared, even though they were informed of the regulations, they're also still interested.
right. Well, why would she think that the auction wasn't that day if she wasn't told? And apparently Mr. Rotolo said, yes, he said that we may not have the auction.
I said at the meeting.
I don't know.
No, I didn't speak to anything. I said at the meeting, I made my recommendation.
This woman's realtor said that she was told by Ms. Healy that the auction may not happen, that she would get a phone call.
So if somebody's told it may not happen, and
Right.
they're really interested, you think they're really not going to show
No,
up?
she was waiting for a phone
ridiculous.
call
So she
to
was
say,
told
yes.
she would get a phone call that it would be on.
All
Right,
right, so the the concern is noted, but nobody of official capacity from the township informed that woman's agent that the auction would not go off as planned. So I don't think there's any other concern related to the timing. Is there anything else that you have on the topic of
That's enough
tonight's meeting?
for now.
Okay. All right, anyone else from the public?
While we're on the subject of 46th Street, on the night before the auction, and there was some discussion about maybe postponing it or the need to have a second auction if nobody showed up. I mentioned that maybe if there were zoning, different types of zoning available, including two-family zoning, because that's a big property for a one-family house. If two-family zoning was available, I suggested that there might be more bidders the following day, which was that Thursday. If you're considering having another auction on it and you're considering about zoning, give some thought to that. I had a real good feeling that there would have been more bidders, real bidders.
Thank you. Any other member of the public want to talk on agenda items? Okay. Yes.
Mayor Mike, since you adapted the agenda for the building department and property maintenance and use, would this be an appropriate time to ask a question? Thank you. My question has to do with blue laws and Sunday commerce and openings. I left several messages with the building department about a 10-minute oil change place. It's next to Sacred Heart and the Sunday hours. I've yet to get a response from that. And, you know, while we're on the topic, we could probably take a cruise around town and see what type of Sunday commerce is going on, just to make sure that we enjoy our Sundays as intended.
And some of those businesses are protected and allowed on through blue laws. I don't know which ones actually fall underneath that category.
Those are county regulations that restrict all the retail stores, so.
Right.
It's not a local ordinance that prohibits it or state law or anything like that, it's county regulation, so Paramus happens to have their own ordinance, which is more restrictive even than the county. But, you know, we don't restrict those type of businesses by local ordinance. We could, but we have never done it.
So,
Well, we did prior to 85 or 86.
Oh, maybe back then, yeah.
And so everything else, you know, would be open for discussion when we approve businesses that want to come to our town.
right. Well, also,
in their hours and stuff.
as part of the application through a planning board, a tenant review process, we talk about the at Sunday, any hours. We basically highlight their operating time frame or envelope, and then we usually kind of tighten it down if there's excessive use during certain times of the weekend. But we can find out if the businesses in town are operating within accordance of the blue laws. I don't know if we have enforcement action, enforcement ability to do anything about it. But
I don't know the answer to that. I would suspect you may not. It might just be a county police or something. I don't know. I've never really heard of anybody, any enforcement action being taken at extending business under the blue laws, although I'm sure it's happened. I don't know, because Paramus, it happens all the time, but it does. But that's a town regulation, so it's a little bit different. County, I'm not sure who would do that.
Well, this is the town, and it's the 10-minute oil change price.
Okay.
I did ask about it. You have to get an answer on that, so.
okay, we will have an answer by the end of this week.
Okay, who's you?
Probably the administrator or
I can answer the question now. There is no blue law against the 10-minute oil change on a Sunday. It's only for retail, like Joe said. That's what the county blue was, or if they were selling clothes in there, or anything to do with retail, clothing, stuff like that, you cannot sell on Sunday according to the rule of Berkeley County.
In addition to electronics, lumber,
Right, those, but we can't put restrictions on
If the
that.
town wanted to pass an ordinance, and, I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell them, you wouldn't be able to pass an ordinance now, which would be effective, it would be for anybody, or any new business coming into town, effective the day the ordinance would be adopted.
Or when the use was filed for at that point. Because everything's supposed to be vetted.
The ordinance has to be passed and
Before you can
approved
enforce it.
prior, in order to start enforcing.
and I don't think, and once they get the approval, if there was nothing that was specifically prohibiting, you can't go back and eliminate that. If they change owners, then that can go into effect. Meaning that if there's a transfer of ownership or transfer of use, in another tenant review, that would be something that you could put restrictions on.
So, is this settled or, but I guess my question is, this question dating back to the spring, and I never got it stuff.
Well, what we'll do is we'll make sure that we get confirmation of the restrictions on blue laws and either get you the website that specifically identifies or the ordinance that identifies the use restriction or the items that can't be sold. And then we'll get that to you, and if it falls into that category, we'll follow up and we'll make sure that they're
As well as if there's any resolution specific for that occupancy.
yes, we can get you the resolution of approval from the planning board at some point, yes.
One question. That was a 10-minute oil change. It changed to be Valvoline. Was it a change of ownership? And did it have to go back through tenant review?
If it's a change of ownership, then it has to go back to tenant review. We do have a member of the planning board.
Chris Muller, Forest Place. I brought this up, I don't know, 6 months ago. I think I'm not sure, but if the Valvoline is not the 10-minute, they were supposed to come back to the planning board for a tenant review. Same way with the Hackensack Meridian Health down there. They're a different tenant than the whatever was there before, that emergency thing where Gallows was. And also the signs in front of the oil change, they're supposed to be regulated. You know, he's got that flag there. I think every sign in town, there's regulations for signs. You know, that no one's checking. If you drive up and down, there's signs everywhere. But that oil change, I've been harping on for 6-8 months, saying, is that did Valvoline merge with 10-minute oil or something? But also with the Sundays, when they come to our planning board, like that collectible and antique place, we always say you can open on Sunday, condition on the fact, if it's allowed in the county. So that's, and they came back and said it was. So I don't know if, I guess the service is allowed, but my point is, they never came to the planning board at all. There's few things in town.
So the question is there a process of registering a new business that actually comes through Rochelle Park? And if that is the case, and you're registering a new business, where's the trigger that would require a tenant review process before
Usually
they're allowed
to
to?
a certificate of occupancy. When you get on, you have this process, this tenant review process, you have to go to the board.
So this kind of goes between the township committee and the building department. So our administrator will take a look at the entire process. If there is something that needs to be formulated to trigger, and there's a notification process that triggers the tenant review process that you need to make
The
sure.
ones that may fall between the cracks, maybe the people that come in for apply for CR, they just open it, and that does happen. So if they don't come in, the building connected that, they don't know, so there's no trigger event until they're later found out. And there's a directive after the board.
Specifically, I like the word trigger, because the thing that I think triggered me was, those pneumatic tubes that the car rolls over, goes like,
Yes.
so that's like a new feature. Of course, hearing that on Sunday, today, especially when it makes it safe. So depending on what it is, maybe that is specific.
Right, so we're calling people to worship more often than we normally do. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Thank you.
Then we can just ask them if that's the case.
Right. Thank you. All right. Any other member of the public wishing to speak on topics that are on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to close?
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. Can I have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. First item on discussion, property maintenance.
The last week, we requested that we put another ad out, the ad out. I think it's too possible, but anyways, the whole point of asking that. So that went out, the time period is up and over. And I have not received any applications other than the person that is currently doing
Okay. And we feel that that application process is fully complete at this point?
At this point, I would say yes. The person who's doing the job, my understanding is, he has been doing a very good job.
Okay.
With my conversation with Dan, we go to Mark. So,
does he meet all the criteria that we have in the job?
Can we make a motion for that hire?
Yeah, I think we can do that at this point to officially hire into the position for whatever was stipulated in the ad for the position. So,
what I would do is work with current conditions for the rest of this year, so we will be able to sit down. Look at the budget, do a follow-up.
so are we not offering him
So we can walk him into position.
starting January?
Right, but what I'm saying is that we look at.
Carry out the rest of the year as a weekly. That's fine. Any other member of the township committee have any, concerns about this, or they?
No, would it still be posted? Is that the plan, or we're just gonna leave it?
No, we would hire him, officially offer him the job as
6
of
months or
January,
whatever.
January 1st, but continue the rest of the year as a temporary hire. And then after that, he's officially hired by the township with on a part-time basis. All right, so
To hire the property maintenance temporary position, the remainder of the year, and whatever was currently in the ad for 25 an hour. How many hours? I'll just say the hours.
The hours are there.
Okay.
They were stipulated.
and then offer a continuing position as of January.
And then offer a continuing position as of January.
There is no more than 5 hours a week.
All right.
Do you want to second it?
I will second that. It's a great joint motion. What's his name? Joe Sackey. He has a name. Yes. Yes. Officially, yes. So I second the correction to the motion. So Joe Sackey. All right. So,
Did he
I think we're fine for now. Honestly, actually, everything else in the year that's a good one, so.
He's on the ball. Yeah, very good.
so we have a motion and it has been seconded. So let's do a roll call vote.
Mayor Bonte?
Yes.
Mayor Mabasi?
Yes.
Mayor Raji?
Yes.
Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Mayor Cash?
Yes. Okay, next up is Bureau of Fire Code Enforcement salary. Mr. Davidson, I'm going to ask that you take the lead on this. This is something that you've been working on for some time. So, what do you have for us?
So anyways, as I understand correctly.
Can you talk louder, please? I'm sorry, just with the blower.
Sorry.
Everybody talk.
Thank you very much.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So my understanding is that from the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago prior to me leaving, that meeting was that if anybody had any input that they wanted to give me pertaining to the Fire Prevention Bureau as far as this issue is concerned, that they were to give it to me in writing. I received nothing. So, anyways, as a result of that, one of the suggestions I would like to make here is, I had to make a request to the Finance Committee, if whether or not we can sit down and try to work this whole issue out, so for next year. But in the meantime, what I'm contemplating, what I would think we should minimum do, so we can get these people, up and running, with better, hourly rates. Our previous discussion was that we would have a bureau chief, we would have inspector, and administrative assistant. So those were the three positions that I believe that we all agreed to. Is that correct?
That was from July.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Right, we had different levels of inspectors.
Senior inspector too.
Right.
So you tried
we-
to break it down, you didn't want to do that any longer, so we
Right.
broke it down into the three groupings, all right?
Right.
The hourly rate range that we discussed was between $15 and $20 an hour, okay?
For,
Well, that's the range for the hourly employees.
well, let's talk about the bureau chief. We had suggestions as to,
Yes, one of the suggestions was that there be more, I believe it was, 20 hours a week. And, it would be at $20,000 a year, okay? Quite frankly, I have not had the opportunity to speak to Mr. DeMott about that particular issue. Because I'm not quite sure whether or not, and I hate to put you in the spot to tell, but in order to do 20 hours a week, I don't know, because I know you had mentioned at a previous meeting that you don't dictate the hours.
let's make sure.
So,
Would you feel comfortable sitting in on the table and having a discussion with us since we're talking about your department? So take a seat at the hot seat. At the
Of course. Don't trip over the switches.
Gotcha.
thank you. Just watch the wire.
Yeah. Out of the way.
Thank you, Mr. Demott.
So, Mr. DeMott, one of my concerns is, that you'd be able to dedicate those type of hours.
Yeah, I think the only thing that, I saw this document that you had given me last week up at the dais, and that's the only thing that, I really, which is relatively close to what our discussions have been in the past.
Right.
You had put a minimum of 20 hours a week. I understand that one of the concerns always is not to pass 25 hours a week because of
Right.
having to, so I would say a maximum of 20 hours a week. Right?
So, I mean,
Or
yeah,
20 hours a week, but not a minimum, you gotta set a,
The expectation is that
Right.
20 hours a week is what you're putting into this position.
right, and you may want to put not to exceed.
and that's
Because I know there was a concern about, Bob saying that going over 25 hours a week, I think it has
Yeah.
something to do with having to offer health benefits, which I don't
There's a
need.
whole
but
series of
It could come
issues.
down the road,
Right.
anybody in the position.
Now, let's just say there's some, let's just say missing hours, like the week before. Can they make them up the week after, or?
Yes, I mean, so.
So is it a pay period, I guess is your question, or is it a weekly thing?
Well, again, I'm going by what notes that I have from.
Well, I'm asking from a legal standpoint,
Right,
I
so-
guess, because I'm not too sure on the law where it pertains to, how many hours before you have to offer.
Right, and
So
what if
is
it's
it-
only 20, what if it's 2 times a year, it's only 25 hours a week? I mean, does it fall into the category?
Really, not really, but it really should be designated
Yeah,
as
yeah.
either not to exceed, just to cover it.
Right.
That defines the parameters of the
That's what I
position.
like to do. I'd rather have specifics.
Because truth be told, if I'm doing work administratively, and then you add in a fire investigation or a call out or something like that, I may exceed those hours. So that's why putting hours to it has to be something that's considered.
Mr. Warren?
No, I was not in attendance the last meeting, but I have been looking at the document that we got, and I have been thinking about how to approach this. I made like a little visual can I use the screen here to plug in the,
Sure, if
it's just the line.
I mean, that's a lot of zeros on that.
That's my one, that's when I get,
Oh.
tired. That's just my drawings.
Oh, okay.
That's
All
right.
right.
Yeah,
As long as
I
those
doodle,
are
that's,
dollars.
that's when I think, no, it's not dollars.
Right.
That's, it's eggs, not zeros.
Oh, God.
I mean, basically, I came up with a couple proposals that I think I want the township committee to see.
Okay, was this anything that was previously circulated to?
No, this was, I worked with Committeeman Bodgick on the numbers here, but I didn't know if this was going to be decided tonight, or I thought presenting it, and I really only made the presentation today, so, because I saw it was still on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Well, I mean, it's perfectly all right. We can discuss any of these things. I don't know if we're going to officially put this into action tonight,
I just
or
wanna
another time, but,
Have a conversation.
I mean, if we didn't have any information prior to this meeting.
I used this
and
information to base
Right.
off the proposals
And
and the conversations we had since July.
Right, and I know Mr. Davidson asked for any type
He
of
did.
information that was coming or input
Well,
on that was.
he
was
said-
Well,
going
actually, it was your request, not mine.
Right.
That's
And
true.
I was
That
there in
was-
August, and I didn't know that he emailed the finance people, so I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, so let's see what you have. Is it
It's not
quick
filthy.
to, no,
Say-
it's good to know.
I'm gonna need to use the screen now. This way.
Fine, I don't know how, this
Got the wire.
You gotta make sure.
Let me have that.
I
Hey, wait. Why don't you sit down? Watch the board, watch the board. Oh, shoot. Uh-oh, we're down. We're down.
Six people home, so
Like hurting heads. You know?
As long as it reaches your mind.
Yeah, never mind.
It's fine, it's just the cord. I'm not gonna go too crazy with this camera stuff.
Yeah.
We're still alive though. Thank God.
So. Hold on, I should know this. From the classroom, not too much pressure at all. Source here. Oops, sorry. I'm sorry.
How,
Well, I don't know why it's not them. Here we go.
like, do you need like 20 minutes, half hour? What kind of time?
There might be all kinds of like.
That's it. I mean, I've got like a,
Balloons.
yeah. I hope so.
Like when you're on home.
I went through a lot of work for it.
some presentation.
It's nice, right? It's better than anything else.
That was good, Darryl.
All right.
All righty.
Technical difficulties happen.
Yeah, well, listen, it's part of life, right?
You're getting there.
Okay, here we go.
There we are.
Yay.
Okay, thank you for your patience, I'm sorry. All right, so I know when Mr. Demott approached the township committee, his main concern was that how can we attract and keep inspectors? That was his number one concern. People are leaving, and we're not attracting people to the position because their salary hasn't been kept up. So I just went through a couple of different proposal ideas. All right, there's 3 in total, but they're short. The first proposal I call the mayor's 1%. Casimir has consistently proposed a 1% salary increase with an emphasis on accountability, which you have, Mayor. Accountability would come in the form of timesheets that describe the task and number of hours worked. Bureau chief would go from $18 an hour to $18.18 per hour. Fire inspector, the senior one, I'm going to say, before 2015, would go from $16 to $16.16 an hour. The fire inspectors, I believe there's 2 junior ones, or potentially 2 junior ones, would be at $14 to $14.14 an hour. And the assistant would go from $12 an hour to $12.12 per hour. And that is keeping the hours that were on the sheet: 20 hours for the bureau chief, 10 for the senior inspector, 2 10s for the fire inspectors, and 8 for the administrative assistant, which comes to 58 hours for a total salary of $47,058. That's proposal number 1. Proposal number 2, flat 2%. The proposal gives a flat 2% to the department in line with the other non-contractual employees. Accountability would be in the form of timesheets with descriptions of tasks and hours worked. That would put the bureau chief to $18.36 an hour, $16.32 for the senior fire inspector. The junior fire inspectors, I don't want to say the juniors, but hired after, would go to $14.20 per hour. And the administrative assistant would go to $12.24 an hour. And that is keeping with the 20, 10, 10, 8 that kind of averages out here for the hours. 58 hours, total salaries $47,524. The third proposal is new, and it's a salary and hour adjustment proposal. The proposal is, since that salaries have not increased on a timely basis for the fire prevention department, the following adjustments would propose the following changes. Bureau chief would go from $18 an hour to $20 an hour with a max of 12 hours per week. Fire inspector senior would go from 16 to 18 with a max of 10 hours per week. The juniors would go from 14 to 16 with a max of 10 hours per week. The administrative assistant will go from 12 to 15 with a max of 8 hours per week. This reduction of hours, which was proposed on the second part of the sheet, would be 40 hours for the week for the department, 12, 10, 2 10s and an 8, for a salary total of $44,720. Now, let me just show some of the justifications for the salary adjustment hour changes. Fire prevention is no longer doing property maintenance, which contributed to a significant number of paid hours to the work week. There is no historical data. There are no timesheets that demonstrates evidence that more hours are needed for the department to operate. This year's budget leaves no room for additional costs. The proposal number 3 brings the salaries on par with 2019 wages. There is a condition that after 6 to 9 months of data collection, that means timesheets coming in for 6 to 9 months of tasks and working hours, the department head can solicit the township committee in writing for a necessary expansion of hours. The township committee will make the final determination of whether those hours need to be expanded. That is my slideshow. Short.
That was pretty short.
Yeah. But these are our 3 options, and I feel bad that we keep dragging this out, but actually, I'll just leave it up here.
I don't think those are our 3 options.
I'm saying these are 3 options that I came up with, just because I'd like to see this.
Well, I thank you for giving me the 1% mayor's proposal.
But Mayor, I mean, listen, you have consistently pushed for 1%.
Yes,
And that's,
but how many times over the last 5 years has the fire prevention salary been adjusted?
I'm sorry.
How many times over the past 5 years has fire prevention salary been adjusted?
Once.
Okay, when was that?
2015.
Okay.
The end of 2015?
So,
no, it's not 2 years ago.
Where does your,
for over 3 years, so it was before that.
how are your salaries paid? Where's the money come from that pays for your salaries?
Registration fees and permit fees.
Okay.
So to coin a phrase that's been used a couple of times, we are a self-funded department, much like the building department. Whereas our fees are set for the goals to get the job done, to put it in layman's terms.
How many hours a week are you currently operating for fire prevention?
Lacking the employees right now, I couldn't tell you. It's probably been 6 months since I've had a full complement of what I had 3 fire inspectors working part-time, specific hours, additional hours, whatever,
if I may, Darrell, on the sheet that was presented to us in July that you also have a copy of, the top says 55 hours per week. I had 58 for the proposals 1 and 2, trying to match the current number. In the new proposal that's down here, 40 hours not to exceed for the week for the department. So that's where I came up with the 40 hours total. And it does bring into balance the 20 hours for the chief, but the rest of the department barely notches over double digits. So I thought by balancing it out, the employees, which was the concern that was brought to the township committee, that we're not getting the increases that were therefore leaving, which we, I think one of these people have left already. So these salaries do come in line. It does ask for an hour adjustment, but there is the condition that upon review of the timesheets, you can come back and say, listen, I need to get more time. And this is what it works out, Mr. Vodnik, Excel spreadsheet. So this is what it would turn into. The current in the first column, which is what is happening now. The number 1 is the 1%. Number 2 is flat 2. And number 3 is the one I proposed tonight on the far right. And then, Mr. Vodnik, is there anything you wanted to speak about as far as what's presented in the spreadsheet?
No, not really. I mean, kind of just pointed out on the right side, kind of where, obviously, number 1 is a 1% raise, number 2 is a 2% raise, and number 3, I just kind of try to show what the rate, lining up, like Darrell said, lining them up with, more realistic hours.
Yeah.
You're giving them a substantial raise to hopefully attract them and keep them. And then the rightmost column was just to show how much that person is making above the person below them.
So one of the things that I noticed is that you didn't use the numbers that were on the proposal sheet that were addressed in your spreadsheet here.
Well, that
the numbers that we discussed at prior township committee meetings.
Well, this is just a proposal, so I just used this.
Right, but
just
you
to go
have
with the proposal.
3 proposals up here, but you don't have the one that was written and distributed to the members of the township committee. You
Okay.
didn't include that in your calculations there.
Yeah, I didn't go with the new one.
Can I ask one question before you go? 40 hours. Is that enough to cover the amount of work that you need to do?
That was gonna be my next, although I can appreciate Mike's hard work and all this, he's basing it off of numbers that Mr. Davidson had put together, which was not nearly a discussion that was fitting what the Bureau does. Take fire prevention and property maintenance out of it. If you go back and look at the amount of time that we put into fire prevention before property maintenance was a part of our task, we were doing more than that already as far as hours are concerned.
And we can get the documents on that from the pay stubs of the.
Certainly, I did a 5-year look at it before I talked to Mr. Davidson the first time. I was exceeding the amount of hours already. Yes, we certainly did more hours of property maintenance, but I was exceeding the amount of hours you're talking about now.
And your funding comes from fees, correct?
Correct.
Is there any taxpayer dollar that goes to?
No, because you have not, in the past 5 years, ever exceeded the amount of money that gets taken in by our Bureau. So we are self-funded.
And I dispute that. I gave you a printout. I got the numbers for 2018, 2017, 2016 and 15. I could not complete because I couldn't get the operating expenses. Liz knows about that. They are trying to get them through Munidex.
You're missing one of the fees that the town
Okay,
receives.
which is that, the mystery account?
I don't know what mystery account is.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out because I don't think you realized what was going on.
No.
Because everything was deposited, even though Roy said no trust account. I don't want to have to get up and get 2 boxes in the back and bring them out here and lay them on the table that say trust account on them and go through the envelopes and show everybody that your fees and penalties are yours. I figured out. The penalties are.
Fees and penalties are not known, they're incorrect.
Okay, so whose are they now?
So if we want to talk about your trust account, which is not registered with the local government services on your 2019 spreadsheet, there's 16 of them. And one of them is not fire prevention.
Which one is that? Do you
The
know?
one that you had over $280,000.
No, I never had, that's not me.
Well, I'm saying the township, not
Right,
you.
correct.
Just like when you say me.
No, that's what
That-
I'm trying to say to you.
But that-
I think we're being, things are being twisted. That's the way I want to put it.
It's a good way to put it.
Because,
So in 2003, if you look at your spreadsheet that I get provided by the finance department on a regular basis.
in 2003.
January 2003, this township, I'll say, was putting the registration and fees money into an account.
Correct.
It was 5 years before Darrell. I had nothing to do with it.
Correct.
My name has come up as I've been putting it in. So I just want to make sure that's clear. Not asking
No,
for
it
an apology, I
wasn't
just want
you.
to make sure that it's clear. Because the statements were made that I took it.
No,
I
it
have
wasn't
no-
you. You have nothing to do with the
Thank
money.
you. So I have nothing to do with it. So the
Correct.
town was putting money into an account, which I have no
Four
control.
different ones, which you have no control
Right.
over.
That money that Mr. Rigatano had alluded to in his last meeting of the audit said that the trust account, which it was not
Correct.
fire prevention trust account, was put back into the township's account, wherever. it is,
50,000
general
of that went into the general fund as per the audit. The audit picked that up. All the previous audits, that was not, I'm saying this is not you.
Right.
I'm just
What's
putting,
missing from your spreadsheet is
Yeah.
you get approximately $19,000 a year in the 65% money that's given back for all the lighthouse inspections that we do for the state.
Well-
Quarterly basis, you get quarterly checks, which I get a copy of. So
okay,
there's approximately $19,000 more. So if you add that $19,000 more into what your numbers are, you'll find out that we don't exceed the amount of money that we, our budget of $15,000 and our salaries and wages do not exceed the amount of money that comes in. As a
okay.
matter of fact, the township, and to use words that have been used before, gets extra money.
But
So there's
what I'm
$10,000
trying to say to
to
you is-
$11,000 extra surplus that we're
This-
not even using to fund the bureau.
Correct, but your department was hidden within the fire department previous to this year's budget.
What does that mean?
It was hidden inside. You didn't have a separate line item for fire prevention till this year. It was always under the, I'll get the budgets
Yeah, I don't know what
out.
that means.
Yeah,
but-
okay, in the budget, there are line items.
Mhm.
Your department, not from dirt, whenever they started
Right,
it,
right,
was inside the fire department.
okay.
It wasn't until this year's budget where it's a separate line item showing salaries and operating expenses.
Well, I think to make it more clear, and I'm not sure where you come up with being in the fire department, you looked at something I haven't had privilege to look at.
The
but-
budget, yeah.
Which I don't have privilege to look at.
No, you can, it's online.
Yeah.
You can look at it.
So-
Everybody can look at it.
So the money that we're talking about from 2003 that's been getting put in there, that's registrations and fees, which it's got the caption name, registrations and fees, has been in there since 2003 when Mr. Carroll was the fire official. How it went into this, I don't know. That's done on the finance side. Let me finish.
None of you guys have responsibility of where that money is
That
going.
is correct. So that was going into this
Correct.
account. Right. So all that money that was going into that account should have been then dispersed to pay the salaries, wages in our budget, and it was not being.
It was not, thank you.
So you have
Yes.
the perception that the Fire Prevention
No.
Bureau,
No, I haven't.
we
had
weren't
perception.
being self-funded, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
Right.
Correct,
But that's not the case.
correct. Because
So that's-
nobody would give me the right answer, and it wasn't you, it's
Okay.
up above.
Okay.
Nobody would give me
So
the
just
right
to
answer.
clarify that, the answer, I think, going back to the question that Mike was saying is, here's the problem with the hours. That's why I say sometimes setting a salary is easier than setting the hours when it comes to the administration of the Fire Prevention Bureau. Just like I get a salary for doing it at a full-time basis, and everywhere else you go, it's basically a salary. And it's been brought up that a salary is better than an hourly wage.
Mr. Demott, my issue, and Mayor, my issue is that everyone gets a raise in proposal 3. And also creates a mechanism for controls on, guys, it also creates a mechanism of control on the department's hours until we establish historical data via timesheets that would demonstrate that there is a necessary need for more hours. I just can't, for my own, and this is just me speaking for myself, to create, just to say carte blanche number of hours, I can't be settled with that. So this proposal sets a number of hours at 40 per week, which is what was on this proposal here. Whether or not it's the correct number that I was given, I'm basing it on that. So again, it does achieve the goal of making sure the inspectors and the administrator, and you get a raise as well, get 2019 wages or something that's similar to it. But we have to have some kind of control mechanism on the number of hours. It can't be unlimited, or it can't just be, well, I'll take this without any data saying that the salary would be suitable. So, that's where I'm
just
at.
so that I
Yeah.
can interject.
Yeah, that's fine.
You have data. You've been asking for data for 2 years that I've been providing you for how many hours we do and how much work we're doing.
Well, then what?
I don't know what other
time
data I
sheets.
can provide you.
But I don't have any timesheets.
I don't know why you don't have
I don't
it,
have.
but it's been provided.
Okay.
Liz is aware of it. It's given to Liz every 2 weeks as requested. And every monthly report, Liz reminds us, I need you, Liz, I will respond most of the time. I think that my assistant's already sent it, and you said, yes, you have.
Do we
We're
have
on
the
time,
new
sending it
timesheet
in.
in effect that make you have to write down what your task is?
Most of the departments internally in here have new timesheets. I have not seen Darrell. So
I'm sorry.
But
I just haven't seen, I haven't
But this
seen.
is just
you do-
hours. There's nothing that describes what took place during those
our
hours.
inspections, our other monthly report that you asked for describes the
I'm
permits,
trying-
the re-inspections, the inspections, everything that we do.
I'm trying to do something that's equitable in my opinion. It does.
That's okay, I respect your
That's
opinion.
fine, yeah.
But you're also
Okay.
going by 40 hours, and I don't
I
think
am
that if
going
you
by
look
40
back at the hours that we've been putting in historically, to use your word historically, you can look back as far as I've been the bureau chief before me, whatever you want. I have 12 years of being the bureau chief, you can look back at, and 40 hours a week is not gonna cover the amount of work that's needed to get done by all the inspectors, the administrative assistant, and myself.
And what that does is that puts you behind on inspections.
That's what it will do, and understand that I don't remember exactly what year it is, I can find out for you. When we proposed a change in the ordinance to increase the fees, which was probably, I'm guessing, at least 6 years ago. It was based on the required amount of time and by historical data, what we would need to make sure that we were covering our end of the nut. And it's always been that way.
And you said prior to taking on property maintenance, your average weekly hours were above 40 hours.
If you look at when
But
we
you
did
can't do
property,
40 hours by yourself. right?
No, I'm talking about.
but
the
if you,
department.
even if you look at when we did
Anymore.
property maintenance, we still didn't exceed what we taken on fire prevention, which therefore didn't cost the township any money. I don't know if anybody ever looked at that, right? We didn't exceed the amount of money we taken for fire prevention, and we were doing 2 jobs.
Carol, I'm not questioning what.
I'm just making a statement.
What you're bringing as income.
No, I
The
think you
township
are.
committee's I'm not. I'm
You're
saying
basing
I'd
it on
like to
that-
see
you're basing
40
it on-
hours at this rate of
You're basing
pay.
it on data
And
that
I'd
was
like to
given to you by
start
Mr.
there.
Davidson, which unfortunately
Well,
is
that's-
incorrect.
Okay. Well,
So
that's the information I've been given. That's an option that was up there. Otherwise, the other options that have been presented are 1%, flat 2%. This is an equitable, proposal.
Well, increases was one aspect
Yeah,
of it, Mike,
right.
but the other aspect of it, for the last 3 years, I've made in writing requests.
But
Was
this
that
brings
we are
up your
not,
workers from 6 hours to 10, 8 hours to 10.
not talking about
And
hours,
then,
we're talking about
you
the
know-
amount of money per hour that they get paid is nowhere near the fair value of what any inspector gets in Bergen County.
Well, we
And
can't
I
afford
can't
this
hold
year,
on to these
Darrell.
people.
Darrell, we have a tight
You're
budget.
saying you can't afford it. It's not coming out of your budget, Mike. It's self-supported. You keep saying you can't afford it. Where is the money coming from the township? It's a self-supported bureau. So unless you're exceeding the amount of money from the self-supported bureau, I don't understand where the township has a concern that you don't have money to pay the inspectors.
Then if they're self-supported, why are we even, they should just set their own rates then. Not 5 months. So we have, so basically, if you're
But
self-supported,
why
you
did
just,
the audit state that the money wasn't transferred into the general fund?
And then
What's
what-
been going on the previous years? I'm not,
That's
this isn't
fine.
you.
I don't know, that's
I'm
fine.
just asking
Yeah.
a question.
And I'm just
Again,
answering the best I can.
because you're saying
That's
you're
your finance
self-funded,
department.
but they're looking for 50 grand.
Mr. Rigatano,
Yeah.
Mr. Davidson will attest to, 3 months ago, came in my office and asked me prior to a meeting, Roy's coming up with, you're only bringing in $50,910, am I right? And I,
Remember, but.
well, that's the same number that's here.
Whatever the same, that
And,
is right.
and he's using that as anticipated amount of money that he has never changed since the ordinance changed when there was an increase in the amount of fees people
You
pay.
haven't exceeded, you haven't, even
Have
looking
not.
at this here, you haven't exceeded the
Right.
numbers. And quite honestly, right now, in the current budget, we have 55,000 in the salaries and wages.
Well, you keep speaking about current budget for salary and wages. It's my understanding, and I'm not a finance guy, maybe somebody can draw the lines here. If the money that's coming in goes into an account, call it penalties, registrations, whatever you want to call it fire prevention, and you take the monies out of that account after it's been brought in, you received it, and you pay for the salaries and you pay for the budget, from there, you're taking it in and you're paying it out. I don't know how difficult that is. It's not a part of your township budget. It's the money that comes in for the specific use. I actually have the definition of self-funded. It's for a specific use, and that's only entitled for that specific use.
Does anyone at this table have alternative proposals?
Yeah, with the one we spoke about at the first meeting.
So just give them exactly what.
No,
Okay. That's
we
your,
could authorize a range between $15 and $20 an hour, and the
I
administrator,
did that.
whoever it is,
I did that.
can work with the bureau chief to determine which inspector deserves
Not to exceed the amount of
not
money
to
that we
exceed the
have.
20, yeah, not to
It's not
exceed.
costing the township money. The actual ordinance was
We can set-
designed years ago to make sure that we were a self-funded department.
We can
Darryl,
set the
Darryl, I
hours, set the
understand what you're
hours.
trying to say.
Penalties.
All I'm going by, and what you're part of the finance committee. Right now, what we're seeing in the budget is 55,000.
When you say budget, in what budget are we talking about? The money that has been brought in by the Bureau?
No, it's not money being brought.
Okay, so why are we talking about the budget? I'm having a hard time understanding that. You should only be talking about the money that comes in for the Fire Prevention Bureau and how it's being
No,
dispersed.
no.
There's
We passed
authorization.
the budget for this year with $55,000 for fire prevention salaries.
With an.
But you don't have to spend $55,000.
No, I know, I came up with a
No,
$44,000.
we understand, right, but the point of the
There's
matter
always
is
a little cushion in the
that
budget.
there is that sum of money that was authorized years for salaries and wages,
Mhm.
okay? That's what I think I'm trying to say. Each department has their, when you look at the budget, each department has salaries and wages, okay?
So just let me make sure I understand, because you could probably answer
We're
this
saying
better.
that there's enough money in the budget to cover
The salaries and
any
wages.
of the plans,
Well, it
correct?
sounds like you could, yeah. I mean,
So,
well,
including the plan that you proposed.
Right, the only
a couple months ago.
thing, the only thing that I wanted to do,
No, because hold on, the proposed plan is $58,272. That's more than 55,000.
No, but we decided to go from 40 to 35 hours total.
So
Well, that's what we
so
talked
who's-
about, but we
so
didn't talk
let me
about
ask
what
you,
that-
so the hours were cut,
You're cutting hours.
but there seems to be a problem with that. So if you're gonna, so you wanna cut the hours from 40 to 35 now. Now you're telling me, oh, no.
No, not me.
Okay,
I'm
no,
not
I'm saying not you, but
No, that's,
I'm
well, that's what I had written
I'm on
down
your
from
page.
the last
I'm
time.
gonna get there, but I'm on your page with you, Nick. So, I mean, in the end, 40 hours at 44,000 compared to 40 hours at 58,000, that's a big difference, and if it's to our budgetary figures. But if you're saying go down to 35 hours, then you're really putting a crimp on the department.
My job is to make
Yeah.
sure that the job gets done within the guidelines of the amount of money that we bring in as a self-funded department. And if you look back, we have not exceeded that ever. So the township actually has money in the general accounts based on fees collected from fire prevention, and the job gets done.
That's why I requested an audit
And
with the new auditor, so that we can get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, the only thing I see you missing from this sheet, Linda,
Yeah,
that's glaring to me, I'm not
That's
looking at
okay.
it, is, and Roy was missing it also, which I pointed out to Bob. There's $19,000, I want to say $700 that came from the State Division of Fire Safety you get on quarterly checks.
okay,
That's nearly $20,000 more, bringing you up to, I think it was 68,000 and change
okay.
by my numbers. $68,000 and change, or over 70, I believe it was, and I'll look for it if you'd like.
No, you don't have to bring it
But
to
the
me.
point was, we didn't exceed I don't think we exceeded 68, and you were taking in over 72 or 73.
so I really think the only place where the hours actually come into effect is to make sure that nobody goes
Nobody
over-
exceeds what we
exceeds-
have
Well,
the
so-
ability to.
Well, besides that, so we don't wind up getting into a position where they work more hours, but now they
Absolutely.
qualify. for
And that's my
insurance.
job, and I've made sure, if you look back,
Yes.
that what you've received and what we paid out has been less.
If the hours are unlimited, quote unquote, and just, that's the term I'm using,
I want to use-
I'm just saying, is if you're allowed to to have a timesheet to get the work done, that's what we've been saying. And it goes over the $55,000 in the budget, where does the rest of the salary money come from then?
That's the whole point. It's just like any other department, you really can't go over, you're not supposed to go over your salary. It's in your budget.
Right.
But the budget number only is an allotment of money that is expected to be spent on salary and wages that particular year.
Correct.
It does not
But we're already
address.
getting close to, we're already
Right,
over
but
the.
it does not address the income that is generated from that department.
Correct.
So does
So-
the income go to the township, or does the income go to a different bank account that they draw from once their salaries reach above the 55,000?
My answer to you is that's a CFO question.
All the money goes to the township, and it's the township's responsibility to
See, I don't
manage.
think that happened before.
It was, but it's going in the wrong.
Okay, all right.
Correct.
Here's what we're gonna do. At this point, I don't think we have a proposal that we're willing
I
to
would
move
like to
forward
see an
on.
audit. To tell you the truth, I would like to see an audit exactly what went on with this money over the past, let's say, 3 years. Because we have these trust
Well, the money was
accounts,
going into those accounts
Correct,
that you're talking
correct.
about, so you know where the
Correct.
money is.
but according to the recent audit, last year's audit, which was behind, it showed that the money from this account wasn't being transferred into the general funds. Nothing, this has nothing to
Right,
do with you, Darryl,
right.
this is just what was going on before. So I'd like to see all this, what should have been put into the general, funds for those 3 years. I'd like to see an audit for 3 years.
So what I can say about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is that I had spoken to the auditor about this. And he says by contract, he gets $150 an hour, okay? I've actually had brought this up previously to the township committee. And in fact, he doesn't want to use the word audit, but it would be a review.
The analysis.
Okay, an analysis. So the whole thing, but the whole point of the matter was, when I had asked for, what originally was gonna be $1,000, the township committee chose not to do that. I even asked for 500, I was told no, or that they were never, did not get enough votes in order to do that. So if we do it on an hourly basis, it could take 3 hours, whatever the case might be, I don't know, or it could be
We can
more.
just
or
say
less.
how many hours the limit is.
Well, the only thing is, that we got to get it complete.
Well, he's not doing a full audit, he's doing.
No.
So is that a motion that you want?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion.
What is the amount that you want to
Let's say,
authorize?
what are you saying,
Well, I
150 an hour?
originally asked for 500, this way here to protect it.
4 hours, $600, 4 hours.
Okay, so there's a motion to authorize $600 worth of work by our accounting team to do an audit of this department in order to get us on, I guess, a firm footing to understand exactly where the money is coming in. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second
Is
it.
it open for discussion, Mike?
By members of the township committee.
What? Just to offer some
The
information.
motion has been made
Yeah.
and seconded. I can't really allow any further discussion besides committee members. Actually, we should be calling for a vote at this point. Yep.
Committeewoman Boniface?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavassi?
Yes.
Committeeman Bajci?
Yes.
Committeeman Warren?
Yes.
Mayor Casner? Motion carried.
Okay.
May I ask another question, please?
Let me go to the administrator first, and then I'll.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so as a result of this conversation, again, what I would like to do is have a finance, because we need to have a finance committee meeting anyways. Okay, to review the budget where we are for the year. And part and parcel of that, I think, because this way the auditor has a clear vision of exactly what it is he's looking to do. I think we can discuss that at that meeting. This way, again, so this way he has a clear, objective as to what it is that we're looking for. Okay, what the township committee wants as far as that's concerned. Whether it's signing instead of taking suites, and all I need to know is the contract. I don't care what time it is during the daytime, or daytime or evening, what day of the week it is, I'm going to hear either way, just let me know so I can make the arrangements to have that meeting set up.
Anytime, as long as it's not before 9:30 or between 2:30 and 4.
I know that Mr. Rogers, works in the city, so that's why I'm saying.
So that's my availability, anytime in between any of those. Anytime outside of those, not before 9:30, and it can't be between 2:30.
Can we do it early evening? Can we do 7 o'clock?
have a date? Do you have a date?
Oversight.
You want that?
You should probably be in on this meeting.
Here's
At
one
least with
that-
that particular issue.
If I can offer some information that might help you. And I also just have a basic question.
I just don't know why Mr. Gatano doesn't have all this information if he's the CFO.
Well, I
Does
don't,
he have it all?
I would say that, yes, he probably has it, but I don't, Mike, I honestly
No,
don't know.
Darryl,
And this is
not
not
the-
disrespectful. I
no,
don't know that
Darryl.
anybody here knows what questions to
But
ask.
that's the problem, is that why is there this mystery around this?
I don't think it's much
And
of a
it's not-
mystery as
and
much
it's
as it
not
is
a-
nobody
and
knows
I
the right
have to-
question.
I have to commend Boniface. It's not about you. It's about what has been going on here.
True.
Because,
And that's what I'm trying to say.
yeah, so.
I can
but-
offer you the assistance as the fire official from the administrative code requirements that I have to go through. And I can talk to Roy in his language, if you will, because Roy is also a certified fire official and actually gave me my fire official certification many, many years ago.
So are you,
My question really is, this, as Linda had already alluded to, is an internal audit process that you're looking to find out to why your money didn't go where you should have put it. My question is, the Fire Prevention Bureau, had given the town to date, this was 2 months ago, as of 2 months ago, $67,206.71. That number far exceeds what we've spent in salaries and wages, correct?
it certainly is.
And this is
We've
the
only
deposit
authorized
slips from the ledger
55.
that I give every single time I turn in a check. Every time.
So
And that's including the $19,000 that the state gives you.
are you available 7 o'clock on
Tuesday or Wednesday.
either Tuesday or Wednesday?
Next week.
Absolutely. We waited for a video presentation.
I just don't want to say, I'd like to just say yes, but I just want to make sure because I forget. September, we're looking at the 17th or the 18th. I'm available either one of those two days.
Okay.
Let's aim for the 17th. 17th is a little bit better, but 17th, I still can do the 18th as well.
The committee will come back with proposals. I'm assuming hopefully we get this thing done.
I think we can
So I didn't have to
hopefully hash it out.
kind of clarify. So we're talking about this audit so that you folks, and I say that generally speaking, that the township committee can get their hands wrapped around, their heads wrapped around what's happening with finances that's going on behind those doors. What's happening. My biggest issue is, and I've been literally begging the last guy to not meet every time a meeting comes up, because, and he's offered, without me being involved, has given Bob his tendered his resignation. He feels very slighted. I'm trying to hold on to these people. I don't understand why this confusion of where the money is going behind closed doors has anything to do with the fact that the money's coming in. I've asked for this for 3 years, and I'm only asking to be a competitive amount of money that from that point forward, not be forgotten for the last 17 years in a non-contractual employee increase. We have never gotten a non-contractual employee increase. I've come before you twice in 12 years and asked for increases. And I've been asked to do it in certain ways, steps, which created those Inspector 1, Inspector 2, Senior Inspector, stuff that I really didn't want to do. At the time, Ginny Marie was the administrator, asked me to put something together based on the different years that people have been working. She said, well, everybody shouldn't be created equal at that point, and that's where that came from. That all well and good, let's get rid of that, I agree. Inspectors, and if you started before a certain date, just like a contractual employee, if you started before a certain date, you get X. If not, you're no longer entitled to that, this is where you start. That's all I'm asking, is to give everybody a competitive amount of money, including myself.
So Darryl.
I have inspectors that work for me in another town that make more than I do as their fire official.
There's two things that I think we're expecting out of this review. Is essentially the baseline of the cash that is generated by the department and where exactly it falls in our accounting procedures, as well as a look back into those 3 years as to the amount of money that was dispensed through your department for salary and wages, to give us kind of a baseline Any additional information that you can provide to kind of facilitate that process to get us to the point where we have the correct numbers so that on the 17th, we're able to sit down and
Roy should have this, but
really look at numbers.
My deposit slips,
Everybody got a raise in my proposal, so.
my deposit slips have to match what you guys, if I claim I'm handing it to you, and it's happened before, where there's a check that got stuck. Carol was very good, and Carol would say, here's the whole entire thing back, I'm missing a check, it doesn't balance. And we would have to go through it, find it, and find a stuck check, whatever, and we all agree, here it is, and we give it back to her. So this is balanced every time I give it to you. So the money has been going into the account. Where it's going, it's been going to the town. Where it's been going is a behind closed doors issue, which I can appreciate the confusion, but what I can't appreciate is I need to give not only myself, but the people that work for me, some of them for 10 or 12 years, some kind of reasonable answer as to why the hell they should stay here. I'm trying to hold it together for the betterment of the town, as well as I have a reputation, and I want to make sure that these people stay.
I am willing to move forward with the proposal with the ranges. As we discussed the last time, we definitely have to discuss the limitation on hours. But
But just get some kind of commitment, maybe that after the 17th, we're gonna have something to come back with.
well, you're going to be on that meeting, so
Yeah, you'll be on that.
I know I'm gonna be at that meeting, I've been at a lot of them, but I need to be able to talk to these people and give them something solidified, because I've been doing this for
I
months.
agree 100%.
And the guy didn't show up for work on Monday because he said, you know what? Let them come back with something before I come back to work, and that's another 8-hour day.
My question to you right now is, the range is between $15 and $20 an hour. Now, at this particular point in time, I don't think that we can say that we can give you $20,000 a year.
I'm not asking for it right now, I'm asking for some kind of, when are we gonna stop?
Okay, so I'm just saying, after making this decision, what I'm saying is that I think that we can go with 15 to 20 for the rest of the year, everybody maintain and stay on an hourly basis, okay? This way here, you can get the wages out there to your people. Then from there, we can have a discussion as far as what we want to do with your chief and how we want to do forward. Just putting it out there. So I understand his position.
I mean, the money's already there.
People, right now, we've spent 22,000 on that fire.
that's for the entire year.
And you've taken in 67,000.
Again, I'm only gonna stick with the 55.
Yeah, because that's all we're authorized to.
So,
That's a number you set for yourself, but that's not what you collect. Just to be clear. You've set that money to operate, which is all fine and good,
Yeah.
but you've collected $67,206 as a township.
So your suggestion is to move forward with the hourlies, with the increase. We are under half of what we expected to spend at this point. And we're,
at least for the rest of this year.
Right.
What are we doing with the hours?
Well, again, I don't know.
Again, if we're not going to see what we really did, I don't really understand.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure it's clear.
No, even if you don't exceed the 55,000.
it's the 55, it's the 55 that we can't, let's not talk about my 67.
I'd have to quit my job and work here full-time to exceed the 55 and the rate of pay.
I understand.
We wouldn't exceed
I'm just saying
55.
that we have to define the parameters of what
Those
we can.
parameters have been defined and always been followed.
So are you okay with moving forward on the adjustment to the hourly rate until we get this done? Until we get this done?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Obviously keep the administrative assistant on the lower end, probably, but just, I think, keep it on the lower end, because obviously if we pass a raise, if we give a raise this year, obviously we can't give it to like $18 this year and then scale it back to 16 next year, you know what I mean?
I don't think she was ever expecting.
That's what I think, if we give the range,
Oh, yeah.
that's the range.
It's gotta be in that range, it's gotta be discussed, it's gotta be clarified with Bob. Bob's gonna have to make sure that that money
I
is
might
there.
say,
That we take him and another money we're talking
I
about.
might say just put the administrative assistant at the 15 and then create the 15 to 20 range for the rest of the
Absolutely.
department.
I agree.
The administrative.
Yeah, I think that's how we came to
Carol,
15.
you and I all,
We said that.
if,
Thinking that that would be the way forward.
Administrative assistant at 15 and the rest of the department at 15 to 20.
All right, so, there's a motion on the floor to adjust the administrative assistant's hourly rate to $15 an hour and adjust the inspector's department range for the inspector to 15 to 20. And that's going to be decided based on experience and a discussion between the department head and the administrator as to what rate each individual member of that department will receive.
One thing that's been left out from the beginning, because I understand that there's requests for audits and stuff, mine was never discussed.
And we'll handle that, but you're okay with getting your people up to this point at this time?
To be honest with you, that's not fair.
I
Because one of these guys is gonna make more money than me.
what I was trying to say is that what happened is that he told
No,
an hour range as well.
that wouldn't be right. Because you have a senior guy here 12 years that could honestly be anywhere within your 15 to 20. I'm at 18. Let's say he gets 18. So what's the proposal for the bureau chief to get?
Again, what I'm just looking at, again, until we can have that meeting, I'm just trying to get this squared away. As you, I would certainly think that he was being under $20.
That's what I'm asking for, clarification, because we've discussed 15 to 20 for everybody. We never said anything about that.
That's what my whole thing is to include everybody. I mean, this is what you're talking about.
We're still not exceeding the costs.
I understand.
Right. That's
So-
what the question is.
Are we understanding that the chief is within that 15 to 20 as well?
Not to exceed the 20. All right.
You gotta remember
Okay.
too, you have operating expenses in that money too.
15,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Which has
That's
been,
what I'm
what it's been set at, and if I'm not mistaken, we've only used, in some, I don't know if we did.
Don't go, I won't go there with the accounting figures,
No,
but
but
there were,
according to you, it's
there's-
8,600.
yeah, but there was money,
Okay.
there was also money paid out of the account. I have
That's
the
what the audit's
printouts.
gonna reveal. I mean, everybody
Right,
knows.
and that's where they
I
decided
just
to
wanna
take the
make
money.
sure you know, it's like that whole amount, there's also operating expenses in that department.
Okay, so the motion is $15 for the assistant, 15 to 20 for all of the members of the department, including the chief. And that is
No, just like proposal three.
just until the end of the year. And the 20,000 is not in it. No. So we're talking
That's not
about,
retroactive. It'll be effective when the ordinance goes through.
okay, so I will second that motion. I just wanted to make sure it was properly defined. So roll call.
Committeewoman Bonifay?
Yes.
Committeewoman Vazquez?
Yes.
Committeeman Trusting?
Yes.
Committeeman Warren?
No.
Mayor Pat?
Yes. Okay. So at least we have a Band-Aid on the situation.
Thank you.
The 17th, you're available, so we'll be able to put something together hopefully that night.
If it's okay, I'll bring my administrative assistant.
Yes,
I will
absolutely.
bring a laptop so that we have everything in front of us.
Yeah, you can bring a proposal. We can let you use the smart board if you
Not
like.
as good as Mike.
All right.
Annie is, but I'm not.
And any information, even if it's.
Yeah,
an
all the
additional
information is
person
gonna
that-
be electronic right there in front of you.
Okay.
I'm not in that meeting.
There's going to be, and.
Just so you know, I bring everything that I have electronically so that you can review it at your will. I can print it out, whatever you'd like to do.
Okay.
And we might have something here. Is Roy going to be at that meeting?
Roy will.
Yes.
Yeah, well.
The auditor will be there. Yes, we'll be a finance meeting. But the bill will be in there for a fire.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Excellent, thank you very much. Okay.
Watch the wire.
Got it.
All right. 49 disposition.
Right, Charlie.
So, Mr. Rotolo?
Yes.
I'm gonna ask that you take the,
Sure.
yeah.
We, in accordance with the direction of the township committee, we advertised for the auction for the second time. I prepared the information sheet and the related documents, made them available for pickup. We retained Ms. Healy's firm to market the property. She did so very actively. There was open houses, a lot of interest. But when it came right down to it, there were no bids. That's what's there.
Okay. All right, so, this was, asked to be put on the agenda by members of the committee, so, we would like to take a lead in getting this, I believe it was
Oh, yes.
your email.
Yep.
Yes. And should I ask, Ms. Haley to sit at the end of the table?
Yes, please.
Watch out for the wire when you get there.
It's already warmed up.
Keep it way out of the way.
Yeah, but two people tripped on it. I don't want to trip.
Okay, so,
Thanks for attending, Vicky.
Of course.
There was interest in this house.
Yes, there was interest. We had a lot of interest, a lot of activity. If I'm going off the point of what you want me to say, please let me know.
I'm just wondering if there was that much interest on that, for this house, why didn't anybody bid on it
Okay,
at that?
okay. Well, there were 3 people who expected to bid. And for some reason, each one of them was not prepared. They were not prepared properly. And all of them are still interested in the house. There were also 2 additional people who were just introduced to the property the weekend before the auction, and it was too quick for them. But 2 of those are also interested, and we've had some additional people since that time, so there was interest. But to answer your question, we marketed it strictly as residential property, which were your directions. And we got a lot of interest, but the procedures for the purchase process, the auction process, were at odds with the use as single-family residence. Single-family residence is for families. And usually families live in one place and then move to another place. The way this is set up, there was no option for any kind of mortgage situation. When you have young families purchasing homes, they're not really prepared to purchase with cash. They go for mortgages. So that was a major stumbling block. So sure, maybe there are some people who can purchase with cash, but it really narrows down the buyer pool a lot. So that was one problem. The as-is condition wasn't as much of a problem as the mortgage situation, the all-cash part, or else jeopardizing the $40,000 check, certified check, that you would give to, in order to bid. So that's not something an average family could do either. Plus, when people move with families into homes, they're moving from one home to another. The children are in school. They need to move at certain times. They need to have a certain sense of security about what they're doing, with their lives, with their move. Now, the way this was set up, if they saw the house, 2 months before, they couldn't put a bid in. They had to wait for the auction. Okay, they didn't know if they were going to win at the auction or win the bid. But then, even if they did come in with the highest bid, they would not know until as much as 30 days after the auction as to whether their offer was accepted, and then they would have to close. So they would have to make all their arrangements of selling their home where they currently live, plus, or, maybe leaving a leasehold, all within this time that doesn't fit into a normal family time frame. So that really complicated things. And we did just market for single family residential. And all the things I'm talking about were major issues for people. We had hundreds of people through the house. Of course, we didn't have hundreds who were interested in purchasing for themselves, but there were a lot of stumbling blocks for the families or individuals who would go there for actually a place to move to. Of course, there are other people who went to visit the home because they were always attracted to it and interested in it, and it was more going to it like a museum too, but we had hundreds going through. With an investor, you wouldn't have that much of a problem. They don't have to worry about moving in. They would purchase. Somebody who was looking for an income stream from, as this gentleman mentioned, multifamily, two-family, or maybe even more on that kind of property, wouldn't have those same restrictions on their freedom to move or to follow, the rules and regulations. So I think you had two things going. We did not market to anybody other than single family, and single family, the procedures were just not suited to a typical family. So, and also other agents were not very actively showing the property. There were very few showings by other agents. And the reason was because, of course, we had to post these regulations, and they are not things that the real estate community is used to working with in the realm of single-family residential homes. So I think that did detract from our success. On the other hand, we still do have interest. So,
Joan, is this the only way this property can be sold through auction?
Yes.
That's,
Well, you could, if you sell it to another government entity or another town or you can, fire department or some instrumentality of the municipality, you can transfer it by other means. But if you're talking about selling it, generating money for the town, this is the only way.
Ms. Healy, may I ask you a question? I'm sorry. If the auction was to be set up the same exact way that the one that happened on August 29th happened, would there be those same interested people coming?
yes.
Okay.
What's the process for setting up?
We just have to, same thing, yeah, we have to pass a resolution, set the dates, advertise again, and
Well, they would be interested as of now. I don't know how long people can remain interested. One person who was interested, they sold their house so that they now actually can purchase cash. But they're going to close October 31st.
What's the soonest we can do an auction?
So,
there's the resolution that you proposed before with the dates of, you could just change the dates on it. And that would be,
right, but that also, and again, we've been talking about it from the very beginning, that also talked about changing the permitted uses for the site, which, there may be, these people would say that they're interested, and maybe they'll show up and bid, maybe they won't, but you would certainly get more money for the town if you allowed at least professional offices, maybe two families, as Dave said.
so the ordinance that you brought forward on the last meeting,
Right.
on August 29th, 8th, okay? You said 1 and 2 family residents, bed and breakfast, professional offices, business offices, or restaurants.
Right, now those, just so you know, they didn't just come out of thin air.
No,
Those
they've
are
been
all
in
things that were
discussions,
been
correct.
discussed for the last whatever amount of time, so yeah, I mean, you certainly
have
feel
names.
free to take some of those things out, or whatever you choose to do, but by opening it up to other uses, I'm sure you're gonna get more.
That would increase the sales price.
Oh, yeah, certainly would.
My only concern about one of those items that are on the list is that the two-family, and I know there was a concern about two-family, and, you know, we would guarantee that we would have more bidders on the property. My concern is that adjacent properties are going to use that two-family designation, and we're gonna have two families justifying, or people trying to justify two families all along Passaic Street and up and down
There's already some
Peak.
there, aren't there?
up and down Peak, because they're adjacent properties.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
that's the
people could
only
make,
thing
yeah,
I
people certainly could make that argument.
am
I mean, you
concerned.
can't, the same argument would probably hold true for the other uses too. You know, there was even consideration 2-3 months ago about rezoning that entire block, you know, from Rochelle Avenue up to Route 17. It's, both ends are commercial uses, so, you know, would be commercial uses.
Right,
But these are all options that we've considered, and frankly, I sensed at that last meeting, said, everybody threw their hands, there was so much discussion, everybody threw their hands up and basically said, screw it, just sell it the way it is, 400,000, without really thinking what the consequences were. And
Nothing was really thought of in 2015, Joe, what
I
the
don't-
consequences
I'm
were.
not disagreeing with you,
So we're
but
discussing
I'm
the next
talking about
step.
what's going on right now. I mean, we can't really debate.
I know,
We
I'm
own
not
this
gonna go
asset.
there, but I can beat that horse all the
Right,
way out the
but
door.
Really, respectfully, why beat that horse to death any more than we already have? We
Mr.
know,
Nicole, if we were able to come up with agreeable uses, how would we value the property?
well, I think it would be valued based upon the market. It would be valued based upon what people bid for it. So if you opened it up to just professional uses, even if you let set a minimum bid of 400,000 or 500,000, there's no doubt in my mind that you would get a lot of activity from professionals. We've had professionals calling us for a year about that property, lawyers and architects, designers, things like that. But in order to do it, they'd have to run the risk of going to the zoning board and having the zoning board deny them.
I understand that, but the
So-
properties is on the market now for 400,000 and the risk is great. What's the difference, what is it, 500,000 minimum, 600,000 minimum if you open it up to professionals?
I mean, I
certainly the risk isn't there then you come in, they buy the property.
Right, that's why I think the market will drive the price. So a professional, and Vicky, she's a professional, a professional comes in with the zone that allows an architectural firm. And he loves the property, it's a special piece of property, clearly, whether you think we should have bought it or not, it's a special property. If we set a 450 or 500,000 minimum bid, that architect sees the value in an acre of property, a historic house, he's gonna probably come in and bid something in excess of the minimum price and far enough in excess that he'd want to make sure that he got it. So maybe he'll bid 6, maybe 650. I have no idea, but certainly somebody would be willing to do that. More so
Business
if you
use buyer is
just-
gonna have a bigger, they're gonna see a bigger investment in it than the residential is.
We also are doing.
You're also competing with, you're saying professional, but you had single-family residents who were interested. Now we're raising the ceiling on them by saying you can't buy the house
But
because
nobody,
you.
but nobody bid. I mean,
But-
a lot of people interested, but.
She said why
But if we have the auction tomorrow, but would those people have the 400,000 cash to buy it?
No.
Or that's, see, that's,
One will have it on October 31st. They're willing to bet on themselves and get it, which, is a risky thing. They know very well that they're not allowed to have mortgage contingencies, but I think 2 of them were planning to go for a mortgage and sort of take the contingency upon themselves and not,
so out of the 3, 2 of them are gonna go for financing, 1 was gonna have cash by.
But probably in
the 400,000, when Joe's trying to
Yeah,
say,
so,
open it up
okay,
to
so,
professional
okay, so,
offices, it's a shot at more.
okay, so the 2 people that are gonna get financing might have access to more money than the cash buyer. So what happens if we accept the highest bid? So C has the highest bid, but C is going for a mortgage. What if C can't close.
Right.
Then where are we?
Well,
Yeah.
no,
And we're in 2020.
That's why it was set up the way it was set up, that there couldn't be a mortgage contingency. Doesn't mean people can't get a mortgage, but if they run that risk, they would forfeit their deposit and be back to square one. So there's no viable way you could put a mortgage contingency in an auction like this, because then the property's not really sold.
That's why we need a bigger pool of buyers.
Ms. Healy, if a family were to buy it, what is the likelihood of them maintaining that property the way it is? I don't think a family would come in and bulldoze their own home.
Well, all the people that I have spoken to who were ready to bid and were not well prepared, it's like going to school without your homework, or the dog ate the homework, or something, they all intended to keep the house exactly.
I don't want to close it up to families, because if the family's gonna buy it.
So then.
We're not,
we're
Michael, it's
But
on there.
what you're saying is you gotta raise the
But
threshold of the
No,
sale of the property.
No, Michael, because we could just go back to auction like it is now.
No, I'm
One of the
okay,
five
I'm
cars.
okay with opening up the usage, but I'm saying is by scaling the price up, you're keeping out, you're pricing out.
would
families.
probably
Isn't
box
it
out
our
the
goal to
residents.
get as
Yeah, but
much
we'd be
money
foolish
back
not
to the
to.
township?
But what if it drove a bidding war? What I'm saying is,
If
I'd
you open
rather.
up the uses, we'd be foolish not to ask for more money.
I'd love to.
Wouldn't it be? Yeah. But here's my thought. This house needs a lot of work, Mike.
Absolutely.
If they don't have 400,000, how are they expecting to, I guess, equity
If
it?
you have 400,000, they want to give some of it back to make people, and they want to get a mortgage on their purchase. And use the rest for. So that's.
We can't assume that they have,
But
No, I'm just
they have to know what they're buying.
In terms of the question of, opening it up to other uses, I think that will increase your exposure of the number of people.
But it goes to like Mike said, it'll probably drive the residential.
And I just want to make sure we're clear that, because I have some whispers behind me about having it bulldozed. I'm just saying is a family wouldn't want to bulldoze their own homes.
How about we just put protective easement on the property and say that you can't touch the home?
There was no protective easement on it when it
You
was
didn't buy it with
bought.
one.
You didn't buy it with one. And that's what I've been saying the whole time, oh, they don't want to develop.
We don't have to, I mean, if we're talking about not eliminating people who have already prepared to purchase this house, let's just say that. If you want to have a starting bid at 400,000, that keeps them in the market. However, we're not here to do what's best for an individual who's purchasing that house.
No.
We're here to do what's best for the taxpayers of Rochelle Park. So going to
I didn't think I was here for anything else.
going to an expansion of uses, and I'm recommending a protective easement on the property.
What's
And
your
I'm
opinion on that?
recommending no protective easement.
Ms. Healy?
Well, I won't say that if you expand.
This is public.
Guys, I can't get this.
Hold on. If you do expand the usage for the property, you will expand fire pool. And by expanding fire pool, you're going to be creating more exposure. So the more exposure you're creating, the more competition you're going to get. You would reasonably expect to get a higher price, regardless of where you started, whether you started at 4.
Right.
What about a preservation easement that runs with the land? How does that affect the value?
If
Does that
somebody
chase
wants to
anybody
buy
away
it
or
or
attract
leave it in the
anyone?
condition that it is, then it's not going to.
Okay, but if the family that wants to move in there,
Or any.
if they sell their house for 400,000, they came to the auction with $400,000, they bought the house from us, they go out and get a mortgage for say they get 200, but then say I can counter, we know there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the house.
Yes.
So what if their 200 isn't enough to cover everything? Then they can wind up defaulting, and they could be in the same position where they'll have to sell the house.
Well, I suppose
Maybe
it's
they can't
possible
afford
to
it.
buy a house on
If it has to be preserved, someone has to fix it. Right.
Well, I have made it very clear to people that the township would prefer, or would prefer any purchasers who will be keeping the house in the condition that it's in. So
Miss
people
Healy,
know that.
this, so I think you can answer it plainly for me.
Yes.
Would a protected easement shoo away buyers, in your opinion?
They shoo away some. On the other hand, I have had people ask me if there's any way to keep the property the way it is and also make use of some of the other land that's there. For instance, keep that single family home, maybe put up another single family. Maybe renovate the 3-car garage and make a carriage house out of it. Adapt it in that way. We had what the woman you were talking about earlier, actually one was a designer who would like to purchase it with her sister, and they would both occupy the house. And they would love to be able to make it a 2-family. They would keep it exactly as is, as a designer should have a designer's studio. It's
Right.
not so much these particular people,
Right.
I'm just giving you an idea.
Broad sense, right.
flavor. Yeah, so they would like to make certain changes, but keeping it looking
Okay.
exactly as it is. So there are people who are willing to work with it.
Yeah.
Some people,
Let's
no.
talk about rezoning it and putting it on subdivision.
No,
And raise the price.
I'm no restrictive easement at all.
Mr. Rotella, do we even have the auction? When can we have the auction? It has to be,
Right here.
We could probably, I mean, we could certainly do it by the end of the year. I mean, you have to give a certain amount of, legally, you have a certain time limit, certain time periods for advertising. But in fairness, because it's being sold as is, you have to extend out the time because people have to be able to do their due diligence before they bid. Because we're not gonna let them go after.
we are lucky that we've had interested people who are very aware of the property. And there might be new people. Once if it's agreed upon to expand the usage. You have November 4th or 11th.
It has right here.
A publishing period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these time periods that I put were based upon if you considered to do it at the last meeting, so I'd have to really look at the calendar, count the number of days, maybe that's still good, maybe we have to bump it out a little bit. But I also had it.
That before our last November meeting.
That was the idea, before the meeting, so I.
Yeah.
For some reason, I didn't, but we had to do it then, our meeting was too soon, so. I did put in here that a condition was that the buyer maintain the building, so that was part of this whole idea, because I think it was the professional office use in that particular building, and that's something like that is really where you're gonna make the most, you're gonna suit everybody's purposes, you'll probably be able to keep the building, get decent for it, but
I don't think we should put restrictions on whoever buys it. We have to
it's
keep-
obviously, you know.
Yeah, that's my opinion. And a lot of people that I've discussed, they don't want us owning it anymore. So if we can get rid of it and sell it at the high, I want the highest price too. I'd tell you, put 8 townhomes in this.
Sold it, if you got a bid, I'm sorry. If you got a bid at $400,001 last week, and you accepted it, the building could have been bulldozed the day after, but no limitations. I don't know what we're doing there, but we spoke probably 8 or so, and it didn't sell.
So can we just, let's go through this, maybe discuss some of the uses first. 2-family.
I don't see why not. It's a big house.
I have no problem with people utilizing the interior as they see fit, but setting a separate entrance and having a legal 2-family in that location, I think sets a precedent for going down the rest of the street. So I am against the 2-family. I'm good with the 1-family.
There's a 2-family right across the street, I believe.
We have a zone, there are existing 2-families in town, and we have a zone that's specifically identified for 2-families in town. And that is, I believe, near Central Ave at Susquehanna and College. So I think
At least there is a multi-use home
Yeah.
Right across the street.
it's coming up here on the right.
Right, I'm not saying there aren't
They're all over the
existing,
town.
there aren't existing ones.
No, and I understand what you're getting, but if that has to open us up for exposure.
No, that's not true, because now we're taking,
room for parking.
now we're
Why would you
taking,
not allow a two-family?
now
Small
we're
lot,
taking
small
an
lot,
action
that has room for more parking.
that
That doesn't make
has,
sense for two-family, this is a large lot.
what are the other issues?
Bed and
items?
breakfast,
I'm good with that,
professional offices,
yes,
business offices,
yes.
restaurants. That's Michael's favorite.
Cecilia, if we took off the two-family with those other uses, give us a much better shot.
Yes, I think that someone who was also, to do something, with, sort of a healthcare ceiling. A small,
Like a home?
sort of, yeah.
Special education.
I don't know. I don't know.
But those type of, there's a federal law, religious persons and institutionalized persons on something, that those type of uses are allowed in all zones, whether there's your town code or not, you can't prohibit them. So there are certain uses that the church can go in no matter what you say, you know, it doesn't have to be zoned for, it's permitted as a matter of law. There are still bulk requirements, as part of the side of setback and so forth.
This is, sort of care for older people who needed assistance.
That probably would be protected, so without even putting it in, they wouldn't probably.
So, and the other thing about the two-family is that you can go to the zoning board and make an appeal to the zoning board to allow for two-family. So, somebody who might be interested in it, and that does not, you know, a zoning decision does not set precedent over, you know, something like this is actually zoning a property for an additional use. So I think that there's two different methods to go about allowing a two-family, whether it's, you know, through our process here or through the zoning board. I think the zoning board would give a variance and we would, and I don't think there's a problem with doing it, but by doing it by zoning it through the township, I think that potentially opens the door. So you had a question as well.
How about, art gallery, art studio, would that fit that?
That would be professional office.
That would be a protection. I think, that was in one of the lists that we talked about, that's probably a good idea, especially if you look.
So we want a gallery?
The property would
Art
be
gallery,
suitable
art studio.
for, I don't know, you know, people would be looking to open. You know.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, we're just trying to make it broad
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
So gallery space.
Yeah, I think studio would be good. There was somebody who was looking to get his, he repairs, expensive violins and, you know, for orchestras.
Zoning for violin.
And he was hoping to be able to open, you know, his shop there too. as
So
well.
studio space, studio space, workshop, gallery space.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
Historic hair or something.
Okay.
Now,
So,
just to make it a little bit more
Blacksmith.
complicated,
That's fine.
there is a process, we have to send it to the planning board and wait 35 days for that to come. So the reason we could have cut it a little short is because we already sent them a lot of these uses. If they're starting on a lot of different things, we really, by law, you have to.
Well, you just said that the other thing fell into the forest line, I guess we're.
Yeah, no, these uses are okay, but if you start galleries
Specify.
and stuff like that, I mean, if you add too much, I think you probably have to send it off.
how much
It's
is
still valid, that's not, exactly, we've already sent it to them, did you just know, did they give us any even feedback to say, hey, got your email, thanks? Nothing?
And who would challenge?
That's why I'm saying like a two-family, I'm sure if, people went before the zoning board looking for a two-family, they would be rallying to
I
allow
think
the
they get it.
two-family.
I think they would get it. I think that they would probably get the approval to do a two-family. But we can't make that statement
Right.
until, you know, Actually, you can't even make that statement.
How expensive and time consuming is that for them to get back?
Yeah.
So you might be limited to 20 people that want to buy it as a
Anyone
two-family.
who wants to utilize their house in a or their property in a different way than allowed by zoning has to go through that process. So I don't think this is a burdensome process for this type of use.
Yes, but somebody coming in to bid and to give basically a non-refundable check for $40,000 and not to be able to find out until after they close. People are not gonna do that.
I understand, but I'm not ready to go through the zoning process to put one property that's adjacent to residential areas into a two-family zone. I'm not ready to do that. If the other members of the committee want to do that, then that is their right to do so.
What's the
Maximum, the full amount, it would be 19 units.
Okay, so you're afraid of safety.
No, I'm afraid of the waterfall of adjacent properties that will come in and say that now that we have a legal two-family over here, I want a two-family.
This is everything.
Right, so that's why the variance process is probably the right way to go to a two-family.
Well, the other argument I think is they could also go in and break up that property. And then put additional No, that's not, the easement is on the property, I mean, on the house, not on the property.
Oh, you're saying leave that part, leave the house?
So we're saying.
Break the parcel?
Yeah.
Does the protective easement protect only the house or the house and grounds? As proposed.
The only thing that I put in here was that the bidder has to agree to maintain the property, so it's slight distinction from an actual protected easement.
Why is it on the taxpayers of Rochelle Park to put a protective easement on this property when the homeowners didn't do it?
There's nothing wrong with the township putting a protective easement on this property.
Why? Why didn't the homeowners put it on there if they were so worried about it? Why is it all of a sudden on you? No, absolutely not.
So, have we finally discussed these? Is art gallery space in there? Okay. All right, so let's add that use, or, gallery space workspace, okay? Easement. Mr. Warren.
Which way are we writing it? Because from what you're saying here, it's just that the buyer has to agree to do that.
The next question is, do we want to perpetually restrict the use of the property?
Would that allow a second home to be built on the property?
That's something you could do as well, that it could just be the house that it would be
Yeah,
open
if
to.
the land is big enough for that, then.
Yeah, they would have the option.
And the house is really is the focal point. I'd be okay with that.
But why is it the taxpayers have to save this house? The money was taken out of capital surplus to buy this house. The biggest question was never answered. How is this house beneficial to the taxpayers of Rochelle Park? It was never answered. It was bought and now stuck on the taxpayers. So now we're gonna put a protective easement on it?
We're trying to accomplish two goals. We're trying to sell the house and we're looking to try to save it. And I think we can do both.
Why? It's on the
We just spent-
taxpayers that they have to save it?
If you're trying to recoup as much money as you possibly can, you don't put any restrictions on it at all. That's where we're supposed to be at.
So,
If your job is to get the taxpayer the money back, then you shouldn't have any restriction on it at all.
I brought this up at the last meeting, and you both went against me. I said that rezoning.
We went against it because it was already up for sale. because it was already up for sale.
I am-
Where you getting the money, Nick, to fix
I am
this?
going to make the motion to put the protective easement into the sale of that property.
Wait.
And keep, well, we're deciding on individual components of this. So that is my motion.
Kick the can.
I want
Where is it?
I wanted to
We
include in
get
there. That is my motion. Let's have, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
We'll discuss. Yeah, discuss for 1 more minute.
Let me just.
You want to divide it?
I want clarification.
The motion is to reset the schedule for the auction. At the end of the rezone, the uses that we discussed, minus the two families.
What's that?
Minus the two families.
Well, I'm talking about protective easement.
I know.
We're just trying to do the whole thing. All right, that's fine.
So
So
your motion is,
without the two family, with the addition of the workspace that we talked about, gallery space, and the protective easement,
which protects the structure, the
which
single
protects
structure of the house.
the two structures that are on the property.
But the remaining.
You said, someone wanted to make it a carrot, you said someone wanted to use that garage space.
As a studio, yes.
I'm fine with that. I think the house is the house.
I don't think that the garage
Okay.
is built.
There's 3 structures, there's a shed or something,
That's
like that, right?
It's very easy.
Right.
So the
I'm
house
gonna have
itself,
those stuff.
the house proper. Okay.
Is that your motion?
That is my redefined motion because the other motion won't pass. So,
And the
yes.
last thing I guess is the price. Well, before you get the price, are you open to, more financing than you see?
Do you want something to do with my kids? That would help families mainly, or?
I think it's problematic, but that motion, it was, I think it's.
You had something, yes. I'm Miss Healy.
Well, I do think that, when we normally do sell houses, there are, mortgage contingencies and there are ways that we get them. And what we look for when we sell a house generally, and I know this is different, but what we generally do is we look for the highest and the best rates. So we don't necessarily always take them. Sometimes the best offer is maybe not such a high price, but better terms. There's always price and there's terms.
Certainty of the mortgage.
Yeah, and very often today, you'll get multiple offers on a property. And what you might do is you might take the top 3 offers that you have and go back to each one and ask them for their highest and best offer. I'm wondering if there could be sort of a modified auction where we might be able to look at more than one, it's only one that can be chosen.
But we can't modify the process. The process is spelled out by state law.
But what you could do is, as the resolution that I brought last meeting said we would be open to financing under certain conditions. No more than 50% of the successful bid price. They have to bring a pre-qualification letter, which doesn't mean a heck of a lot, but something. And most importantly, that mortgage denial can't be based on the appraised value of the property. That's going to be a big problem too. Somebody getting financing this, it's going to be almost impossible for a bank appraiser to appraise this property because it's unique. So.
We got it appraised.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we did, but that's a different appraisal. Banks don't do that kind of appraisal. So, I mean, it's kind of a modified mortgage contingency that can work. But once the high bid comes in, you're obligated to accept the high bid. I think he's completely right that sometimes the high bid is not the best offer, but because we're bound by the rules, it's got to be a high bid.
What if the highest bid fails? What if they fail in their
Financing.
financing?
They lose their,
Do we fall to the backup? Or does it have to go up again?
That's sort of auction.
That's why
That's why you don't.
But it just creates so many issues.
Yeah, no, you could wind up in the same spot we were in, go back to auction again, start all over again, if financing that falls through.
But the whole purpose
I don't
of
think
the,
you can have a
right,
based on the
that's the purpose of zones.
And
But then
clarification of the,
eliminate the, that nothing could be done. That's, why is it on the taxpayers? Why? They got this hung around their necks in 2015.
The property.
$12 million in debt, and we spent $625,000 on a house that nobody could answer why it was beneficial to the taxpayers. But here we are, going into the 5th year.
That you could maintain the house, do something else.
are those uses permitted only for the house
No.
as is? Or do those uses go with the property?
They would go to property, right?
Yeah, so if they built another building next to that, they would use. Yes, we don't change them.
So technically, if there was no restriction on the house, keeping it up, they could, technically, if there was no restricted easement on it, they could knock the thing down and put in a professional office. Correct.
But also, knock down and get a Taco Bell or something. That's different.
That's technically.
I want a restaurant, they live in there, using the building.
I think anything to go in there, it's gonna cost, I said that about restaurants, it would be great, but there's too much work to be involved in that.
Really.
You can't get into that.
The motion, I'm gonna define my motion. So my motion is gonna be protective easement on the house proper. Is that what we're talking about? In addition to that, the additional uses that we previously discussed minus the two-family use.
No.
No finance, relaxation. Any other elements that we discussed that we did not?
The price.
So your restriction is on all the house prices or just the house?
It's not gonna.
There's a house, a shed, and a
House property.
Just the house property.
House property. And then we're talking about price.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Haley, what do you think the pool houses can expand?
Well, it will expand to some extent, and, there will be people who will want to develop the property, keeping the house the way it is, and figure out how they can also use the property to develop it to get some kind of income stream or profit from it. And, they probably will want some assurance in advance, and of course, they can't have any assurance in advance as to what they can do, other than within the limits of the existing zoning. So they'll have to familiarize themselves, this is as I see it, they'll have to familiarize themselves with the ordinance as it exists, and figure out, based on the delineations of the plots, what they may be able to do with the property, with keeping the house there. So it will depend on, the individual buyer and their particular uses. So there will be restrictions, but it will be eased up a little bit. And I do think you've got to have more people interested with more use, so I think it should drive the price up. I don't know if it would make sense to go in and raise the minimum bid, because raising the minimum bid doesn't necessarily get you a higher price. What you want at an auction is more people and have them bid each other up. So I would not recommend raising the price, because what would you raise it to? If it's going to be an auction, people are not gonna know where it's going to settle anyway. So I don't know what the point would be of raising it, unless you're
The
not going.
market will set.
Right.
Okay, and what I'm hearing from at least Mr. Warren here is that continue with the $400,000 price.
This time. Mr. Rotolo and Ms. Healy has said that with these changes, the price is most certainly going to be driven up by the bidders, which is.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%, but I guess I would question why we wouldn't just raise it then 100,000, maybe 500,000, and then start bidding from there.
You can get 2 bids instead of 6 at 400.
Buyers will walk in with their maximum budget for this anyway, and if they really want it, they'll reach their max. So
I understand, but we just we're making a lot of concessions with the zoning.
But we're also protecting the house.
It's true,
But that wasn't that's not on the taxpayers
it's true.
to protect it.
I'm fine with the 400.
That has got to get the house.
No. It wasn't, there was no restrictions on it when the town bought it. Why is it on the taxpayers to put restrictions
So
on it?
that's my motion, $400,000 with all those other conditions that I mentioned before. This is not, of course, the way that I would like to have this property disposed of or dealt with.
Maybe you should have thought about it when you bought it
So that's my motion. Do I have a second?
and did nothing about it for 4
I'll
years.
make a second.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Committeewoman Bonface,
No.
Committeewoman Lavassi.
Yes.
Committeeman Bajnik,
Yes.
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 Committeewoman Warren,
Yes.
Mayor Katsman.
Yes.
All right, I will have a written motion circulated before the next, a written resolution circulated before the next meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page. We don't say what was verbal, just like last time.
So we'll shoot them mid-November.
Yeah.
Early in mid-November, before
Dates.
our.
Just that one, figure out tomorrow.
All right, so that'll be ready for next.
I just would like to make a quick statement about the property. The property has created a lot of animosity. It's difficult to separate the animosity with the house, whether you hate the house or you love it. The house is unique. Should it have been purchased? That's debatable. The issue is, how do we try to get as many people in there as possible while also maintaining the uniqueness? And I just feel like there's so much animosity toward this property that it sometimes can cause us to not make, to not have clear heads about what to do with it, because it's contentious.
Nobody's ever known what to do with it
Well, I
since
think-
I think
2015.
everyone
Ask Mr.
had
Cashmere, he bought it
had a clear.
and had no idea.
So,
and never did anything about it, Mike.
I get it. And
Where's that rose garden, Mike?
And we have tried to sell it in a variety of ways, all which seemingly has not worked. So again, this is a path of trying to sell it. Ms. Healy, I appreciate your time and your advice. It has been invaluable. Now, get out there and make the phone calls.
I'll sell it.
So-
If it doesn't sell, I'm gonna
I
sell it
might
the
show up
next
with
time.
the check.
8 townhomes, 800,000, get all our money back.
Next item on the agenda is building department.
Were they going in school? What are we doing now?
Come on up. Yeah. Pinch yourself. You're not doing
Good evening, everybody. Part of my back, excuse my back here. As everybody knows, well, first of all, I want to thank the Mayor and Township Committee, and I know Mayor Valenzuela has left, for giving me the opportunity to work in the Township of Rochelle Park. I will be leaving, obviously, at the end of the month here. Took on more, bigger job in another town in Lodi, which I've worked for 28 years, and I've been offered a great position as taking over full-time there. So, Bob asked me to come tonight to just give you a little overrun. I've given him the name of a person in the interim about trying to get somebody in here. I mean, I kind of put my resignation, I guess it was in August.
Yeah, actually, I was on vacation.
He was on
You
vacation.
came
I
in to
came
see me
back
and I was on
vacation,
vacation,
was out
so
on vacation.
but it was basically almost on the park.
Right. So, Bob and my administrator and Laura, I actually kind of agreed that I would be able to stay here another month at the end of this month. And I know till date, nothing has been kind of done as far as hiring anybody or not.
I had no fault of anybody here, unfortunately. I was gonna bring it up last week, or last meeting, and unfortunately, I had to look for some episode, so that's why we're here tonight to discuss it.
I had given Bob a name, because I know there's been talk about full-time position, more hours, however, as far as which way the township wants to go. I'm talking to Bob and knowing and seeing what's going on. I don't believe it's a full-time position. I believe you can get away with at least 4 to 5 hours a week to 25 hours tops a week. Have one guy doing as far as construction official, zoning officer, building, subcode and building inspector. Right now, I'm the construction official, zoning officer. Al Reiner does the building inspections. I had asked him if he would be interested in the construction official job, that I would recommend him, because he does a great job doing what he does. He had no information that he wanted the responsibility of taking it over. I did inform him at the time that, there may be a possibility if they do go the other route and hire someone full-time to do all the jobs, he may not have a job. And he understands that very clearly, just so the township committee knows that, whatever direction. The person I recommended to Bob is Jimmy DeMarco. He's from Lincoln Park. He's kind of full-time-ish over there. He'd be willing to come in 3 nights a week temporarily until you basically decided what you wanted to do for the remainder of the year, for the next month, for the next 2 months. He'd be happy to come in and fill in the position. And I would stay on as the inspector, because the guy James only has a construction official license, certified in zoning. I don't know how you are going to approach and which way you want. That's going to be up to your, your needs and whatnot. As far as construction officials, we kind of oversee the departments, oversee all the inspectors. Our job is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of all the people in town, all the businesses, between issuing permits, doing inspections and everything. Zoning is basically the same thing. We approve any and all applications that come into town or deny and send to the zoning or planning boards. So it's a little bit of a kind of a, not that you're kind of stuck right now, but you're in a little pickle until you do something, for the 1st of October.
And basically what I'm looking to do, and that's what I want to have part of this conversation tonight, is at least if give me have the opportunity to speak to this individual, so that we can at least on a temporary basis for the next couple of months, work out, so at least we have somebody in a position, and I feel comfortable if Nick is in a position to recommend him, that he's going to give us a good recommendation. So at least we have somebody in the position. As we all know, there's the opportunity maybe here where a lot of some of these projects, hopefully across the street, as an example, is going to be starting to move forward, and so we definitely have to have somebody in there. In the meantime, just so that you know, I've also started reaching out a little bit to see what we can do about a shared service. I did speak, just so that you're aware, obviously, Lodi can't do it. Paramus, they're just way too busy, they can't do it. I have a call out to Maywood, I haven't gotten a call back from them. I did speak with the administrator in Saddlebrook, and they are interested in doing a shared service. But again, that'd be something that we would have to discuss, and it would take, it's gonna take more than just a month to be able to put something together, and if in fact, that's something that we want to do. So we would have to form a committee, to sit down and establish exactly how that would work.
I don't think it would take that long, because League of Municipalities has tons of shared service agreements up there.
They do, but you have to remember one thing, there's a lot of shared services. It's a matter of getting the personnel to be able to do the jobs. That's the biggest problem. There's like, I'm not gonna say a shortage of my guys as far as licensed construction, because a lot of younger people don't even get involved, you know, everybody's college and computers and.
But you're not a dime a dozen either.
No, not,
No.
no.
And the issue, quite frankly, is not a matter of, the language is one thing, but you have to negotiate, you know, out number of hours, if in fact there's gonna be shared service, and more than likely that person's gonna be a full-time employee that's shared, how are you gonna split out benefits and all this other stuff, so it's a little bit more than just a simple.
If I may speak, I'm sorry. I think we should definitely pursue that avenue.
Right. And I'd like to be able to get it moving, but the point of the matter is.
You need some guidance for temporary.
Well, for now, I'd like to at least, if the township committee doesn't mind, if I need to bring the gentleman, because I haven't even spoken to him yet, because I want to make sure that we have this conversation first. I can have him come in next week, or, I'm sorry, at the next meeting, if you wish, if in fact you wish to do so, so that we can at least get somebody in a position, because the clock is running, and we're running out of time.
I'm not gonna run away. If he needs me when I'm gone, I'll still be here by phone, only a phone call away to like assist in the transition.
But he's not, Lodi is not allowing him to put the hours in.
So didn't the town previously didn't we try to do this previously, a shared service
We did a shared service
for
with,
this position?
yeah, correct. And that was done between our township and Billboard.
Who's the provider?
That was, Richard Bowman was the construction official.
So
at the time.
it was ours?
Yes,
Loading-
initially,
loading into
correct.
To Alpha Park.
Right, and what we did is there, we shared the insurance coverages and those type of things, pensions and so. So if you want to do something similar to that, that's why I'm saying we need to.
So you're saying, it's your opinion, by the workload that's coming up in the next 2 years, this is not ready for a full-time position in Rochelle?
That's gonna be totally up to you guys. I don't feel it will be, because it wouldn't be fair to a person, say like myself, to say, hey, I'm gonna come here full-time for a year and a half, 2 years till you're booming. And then things get slow, and then you're gonna say, I'm gonna lay you off. No, we will need you part-time. See, that's the commitment a lot of guys are looking for now. They're looking for long-term positions.
But you're saying as it exists right now?
I think if you went 25 hours a week, 5 hours a day you'd be fine with it.
And if we were.
Not doing property maintenance, I'm just talking about
Right.
building, construction.
If we were talking about going to a full-time position, that full-time person would take over all, essentially, those functions of the department.
Well, you'd have to
For
find somebody that has all those
inspections.
licenses.
If
Well,
they
it'd
have
be
it.
construction official, building subcode, building inspector, and zoning officer.
And property maintenance.
You're not gonna find many guys that are construction officials that wanna do property maintenance, because property maintenance is a whole headache in itself.
We already have someone set
Yeah.
up, so why?
Well, I think Michael's just trying to get to the point, is if we were to get one position full-time, it would be one thing, but
It's not an easy.
It's too much.
You have to find somebody that has all those qualifications, it's not.
That's all we're asking. And just while we're on the subject of talking about Chris Street, just to let everybody know that 120 West Passaic Street is not being held up by my department or the borough. There are still approvals that they have to meet as far as the last straw they have to do is have the redevelopment developers agreement signed before we can issue any permits to allow them to start construction. So I know there's been a lot of talk all over the place. There's a developers agreement.
And there's a
There's a
redevelopment.
developers agreement that's been signed. There's a redevelopment developers agreement that has to be signed, which I don't think it has. As far as, as of yesterday, it hasn't been signed.
But they can start the queue part.
Well, they can start the queue part, because I think when I spoke with Ken on it, they gotta have that, there's the plan, I don't know if it was in Mylar or something that had to be
Oh, yeah,
separated and everything like that, they had to get something.
Yeah, but once they
get that
get
done, the permits.
That's on them.
Yeah, that's on them. The permits are sitting on the table, they just, as soon as we get the approval, they can check it out.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I heard that the reason the pond looks like it looks is because the power is cut off to that site, which enables the pump to pump in there.
it's very possible the power may be shut off, because when you demolish a building, you have to have all utilities power.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all that is.
That's all. This problem is there's no power to the site, which
You
would be,
can't even pump water.
yeah. Plus there's a leak in it. Okay, thank you. That was a big thing.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of concerns about the health of the fish in there. I mean, they're losing water. They're in there, but I heard reports of dead fish and dead turtles, but that turns out not necessarily to be the truth. But we do need to ask them to do something with that to address the conditions. So it doesn't become a breeding ground for, we're kind of towards the end of the mosquito season, but still, if we have a couple of weeks of nice warm weather, that's going to be a problem. So, any other discussion? I'm ready to go and authorize the administrator to proceed with making temporary arrangements as well as explore options to hire a part-time person or potentially work out a shared service agreement with another town.
So we put out advertisements for the part-time for the interim and put out a thing also that's for shared service. We put an advertisement out that says.
If you put the advertisement, what you're doing is
You've got a guy, you need him now. Nick's leaving in 3 wheels.
Trust me, I normally don't recommend anybody. I don't like recommending people, because if something happens, I always feel like I get the blame on it. And this guy is a young kid, he's energetic, he's good, and it's really why I'm recommending. I've only met him a handful of times, but I know of him to be. He's kind of like my kind of guy, like that person will raise me.
Does he have aspirations to get his all his licensing?
As far as his inspector's license or subcode license, that I'm not sure.
And this is a temporary.
Personal. We're just debating. So, any other? Yeah,
This is temporary, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this gentleman knows this gentleman knows it would be temporary until you can fulfill the position. He can't take a full-time position, he told me, and he said, I will be willing to come in 2 nights a week, and do it, I gotta do it, I gotta do it, and everything like that.
Mark, I think you were asking to approve this temporary, but then post part-time as well as. Yeah.
Or like I said, I'm ready to reach out.
The other way, you know, parts of the other one.
With the person you have to still have. My understanding is he's leaving them. So they do the benefits.
All right, so, do we need to take a vote on this, or can we just authorize the administrator to do it? All right, let's do a vote, because yes. So we don't, all right, so, that's my motion to, have the administrator take care of this with the conditions that I previously mentioned.
Why do I have to do all the conditions?
That was like 20 minutes ago.
That's fine. It was recent enough, Do we have a second?
Like, you might have said.
No, second, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to Rochelle Park. I wish it wasn't true.
We wanted to torture you last day.
You know what, I kind of, we tried to work it out, trust
We
me.
can go and visit you in Lodi if you really want.
We
All right.
probably tried to work this
So
out.
you member of the public that wants to say something directly to you?
I have questions for Mr. Belford on
What?
120.
All right, how many questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
25. 30.
All right.
Ask all the questions you want.
Let's
I'll give you the right answer,
Let's,
the answer
I
you're gonna wanna
spoke, I
get.
spoke to him over the phone, he was very polite in returning a phone call. On 120, you read a stop order work, correct? Stop work order?
There's a verbal stop work order.
Why was it verbal and not posted?
It doesn't have to be posted, that's up to my discretion.
Is
If
that
I,
your
if I
discretion?
ask them to stop verbally and they stop, like they did, there's no reason to post. If they kept going on and I ignored it, then they would have got noticed, they would have got posted and everything else like that.
All that gravel that's been
That
pulverized.
was, the stop, the verbal was done after, that was all done.
It's still being done.
There should be no gravel being done over there.
There is that buildup they got.
It's there, but it hasn't been touched. There's been no one on that site. Nobody's been on that site.
No one's been on that site.
Any kind of construction.
Construction, but the grinding of the asphalt and everything, is that considered construction?
No.
That's not construction. So they could do that.
That's site work.
Stop oil.
Do they have site work approval?
They have the site work is all been approved. That's all done through, put it on the ASHTO.
So, I think the next question is getting the material off the site. Is there anything that restricts them from getting that
They
material
can
off?
stockpile that because that's gonna be used as far as what, and that's a Ken Job answer, question, because he's the engineer handling that. They can stockpile it there because they're using it to do something with the grading there and everything like that. I'm not gonna answer that because I'm not 100% sure.
They're using the cadam to grade it?
I don't know exactly what they're doing. Again, we have to speak with Ken on the actual. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a engineering question.
Do you have another question?
Yes.
All right.
Being a verbal stop order, and there was any kind of construction done, would there be fines imposed for that with the verbal and not a written?
If they were building the structure, yes.
So a verbal is good as a formal one?
If they were building a structure.
That's what I'm saying, if they were building instruction,
Yeah.
construction. Okay, that's all. Just-
Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Non-contractual employee hours.
We just got the paperwork on that today, so I need to read it before I could discuss it.
So we can push it to the next meeting?
Yes,
All
please.
right, excellent. All right, billboard zoning. I think this has to do with the amount of electronic billboards and or static billboards that are on Route 17 or Route 80.
Well, I was asked a question, I don't know if it was at the meeting or in the interim email or something, about changes to our billboard ordinance, so I put together some materials that I had sent previously, and so it's, I guess.
What do you do?
He only asked the question, doesn't want to hear the answer.
So, no, I understand, I heard that.
So I put together, some materials that I had sent in February and actually a couple of years ago as well, just for your consideration. So I also sent it to the planner for review and comment. I haven't gotten anything back. But yeah, if you want to change that, you can revise the ordinance, we can certainly do that.
Didn't I circulate stuff like months ago on this?
I did in February.
Joe, did you send us an ordinance that you originally wrote up in like 14?
Yeah.
Okay, that was never enacted on, correct?
I don't
Okay,
remember what year, but it
No.
was around then.
yes, but I remember getting something and I just couldn't find it. And that was to stop all these billboards, correct? Well,
Not really, it was to regulate them.
yeah.
You know, it's, we've gone through this several times over the years that I've been here, but it just never seems to get off the ground, so.
Do we still currently have the outright ban on billboards in town?
We do.
Still on the books?
We do, that's still on the books,
And
correct?
did I not something in the zoning agenda? Of the
There was
proposed
an
static
There's
billboard?
been an application, I was told after you raised this go around, I was told that there was an application on, that's been filed. I don't know when it's supposed to be heard.
Is that more than 1,000 feet from the existing one that's on that side?
Do not know, I haven't seen the application. It's with the board.
Because I was driving past there, and that really doesn't seem like it's 1,000 feet.
Yeah, so
From end of
visible-
lot.
Well, Joe, you and I had spoken about the ordinance that's proposed, and I know from being on the zoning board, it was 1,000 feet.
On the same side.
But
Yeah,
there's,
but
we're
that's
talking about a
only,
couple
I
of
think,
different.
digital. Right, I think it's only a digital.
It's 3,000, I think it's 3,000 for digital.
There's limitations.
1,000 for.
Right, and there are restrictions, DOT restrictions, so, number of linear feet from one to the next one, so, I don't know off the top of my head where that one is. The application's been filed, I haven't
I
seen
think
it.
the address puts it at Dixon.
Oh, okay, by Central.
Can we limit
That's
this?
what I said, clearly doesn't look like it's 1,000 feet.
I think people in town looking for us to do something that we do. Can we limit them in any capacity?
Oh, yeah, you can, you can outright ban on those,
Right.
a lot
Even
of
though
times
we
did
have
that,
an
but
ordinance.
You can put them at 500, you can put a maximum, you say minimum, you can say 500 feet instead of 1,000.
We might as well get a casino in here, because
No,
we're
let's
gonna
just
look
stop
like the
them.
Atlantic City.
Let's just stop them. We've already gotten the, hold on.
Her
We
building
have
is just
someone
missing
from
the
the
lever.
zoning board here.
There is a current.
well, I don't
we
think,
can't talk
I
I
don't
can't
know
talk
what we
about
need
it, but
to,
there is a current proposal.
there isn't, I don't think we should really talk about the actual application is pending before a board. The board's-
And that wouldn't, this wouldn't come to play in this application anyway. So,
But the DOT restrictions would, so depending upon the location and what those regulations say, that would have an impact of whether it can be built regardless of what the board does.
so why aren't the DOT's restrictions stopping this one from coming in?
It may, some applicants consider it to be a subsequent approval. They get the local approval first, and then they get the Bergen County Planning Board, Soil Conservation District, DOT, whatever. Those may come after. I mean, you would think they would do this first.
Use the measurement.
Can we just put in an ordinance that mimics the DOT regulations for the state and apply that on a local level? 1,000 feet, 3,000 feet for
Why don't we 500 feet?
a dynamic.
Why do we want to keep it 1,000?
No, we're talking 1,000 feet between ports. We want a higher amount of space.
If you, I think you should take a look at the ordinances that are sent around, take a look at them, because I got them, a couple of times from other towns that have gone through a similar thing. Take a look at them, and, one of them does say 500 feet. I mean.
Want more, not less.
Yeah, 500, right, it could be 500.
5,000. Is there a way to limit them on each side of the highway?
It is.
Is there a way to put that in?
Well, the way that-
Because you said that originally I pointed out the 1,000 feet, and then you said that was going down the same side of the highway.
Yes.
It's my
They could be
understanding
opposite
that
each other, though.
yeah, but if it's two-sided, it's 1,000 feet from this side, if you're driving north, you would see it, and at 1,000 feet to the one you would see facing the opposite side of the street, if it's a two-way sign. So it's 1,000, I think it's 1,000 feet regardless of the side.
Right, because we have digital ones that are directly across the highway from each other, or close.
Yeah,
So,
the
so,
DOT doesn't measure
so,
across.
no, the DOT does not measure the linear feet in traveling distance. So let's mimic the state law, local level. This way it's not open to, a unreasonable restriction challenge in the future.
Then don't you want to limit them to the zone? They're currently banned all zones, right? Put them on a zone?
We can allow for a corridor to exist.
So, Joe, I think what we're looking to do is not to add any more signs.
Right.
We got 3 or 4 objects enough. So whatever you need to do.
Right, but we can't do it by saying we don't want any more signs. We
No, I
have to do it
understand that,
by
but that's
a
the-
measurement.
I understand, but that's the goal. So whatever we need to.
So here, this, one of the ones that I sent you has a 5,000 foot.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'm okay with that.
As long as we even have a 5,000 foot tree at the next meeting.
I don't mind if we have 5,000 when we go along. Yeah.
5,000. It can't be 5 times the DOT at minimum.
Well, with the signs up there, 5,000 feet is.
Yeah, I don't think you can do 5 times the.
I sent this stuff to the planner, talked to John and Susan about it. Get their input and maybe
Put some resolution.
Maybe go 1,500 feet.
If we mimic the state restrictions at 1,000 and 3,000, which is what I think it is, then we are probably not subject to challenge. So, and if we do that, I think that will cover most of the, and maybe we can add something that says, you know, even if they're static and digital, maybe they can't be located more than 500 feet, you know, or less than 500 feet to each other. So then we have like a running, kind of a running lineage.
All right.
I don't know, I think that would probably work.
Not with this lawyer.
So,
We're halfway.
any other discussion on that?
No.
Okay. Tree policy, procedures.
Yes, I think I asked for that to be on there. I think that we, you know, this is gonna be way more than one session.
Kick down the road.
I received a call from a resident, I believe the resident is in the room. The resident seems to think that I am the person who is in charge of this tree thing. I don't, so, because I was not at the last meeting, I guess they called everyone else and now it's my turn, so.
I didn't get a call.
Okay, so I got a call yesterday, asking about this tree thing / health hazard. Can you guys update me on what this is?
I can update you. I was trying, the answer that I was looking for last month was, who handles health concerns in the town? Okay,
So,
and nobody said, Mike Warren is the commissioner of the health concerns.
Right, I don't,
So, then why not make an appointment with him?
So-
That's it, that's, that was the only correct
Who on
answer.
this committee said to talk to me?
Hmm?
Who on this committee said to talk to me? Anybody?
Nobody.
Oh, okay.
But you're
But
the
I'm not
health
the person you
commissioner, I
call.
have a health concern.
Right,
So-
but I'm not, you have to come to the clerk's office to file a health complaint. Yes?
And I spoke to Mr.
Okay.
Clinton, I did, and I spoke to the.
And I haven't gotten any feedback from anybody, by the way, and I haven't
But it
got
has to do with
anybody
this
asking
government.
about
It
it.
has to do with the tree, correct?
Well, it doesn't matter if it's a tree or whatever, it's
All right, so
township property.
let's
It's township property that's maintaining a nuisance, and I have neighbors complaining to me. I have dead animals involved.
So,
It doesn't matter if it's a tree or something else, it's a health position that I'm
Mr.
looking
Kingman, just
for.
hold on for 1 second, because I think we are probably in a situation where, I've had a conversation with the administrator about actually, I think it was you, about the tree.
Right.
And, I think it was a conversation that you might have had in the office about the tree in itself, and the conditions that are related to the tree. You don't know anything about this, so that's fine. It was an issue that was brought up at the last meeting.
I wasn't here, there was everything up, I wasn't here for
Yes.
that portion.
Mr. Davidson wasn't there either.
I saw it.
Well, he was, and then he wasn't.
It helps me understand what here I'm
I'm
at.
glad he's
Mike, I wasn't going after you, Mike.
No, I don't,
Hold on.
not
How many, just a show of hands, how many people have had 10 dead birds in front of their house this summer?
Mr. King,
You have one. How many have had 10?
This conversation.
You don't consider that a health hazard?
This conversation.
Mr. King, this is the first time I'm hearing
I'm
about it.
not asking you, I'm just asking in the whole room. Who wouldn't consider that a health hazard?
All right. So the conversation is around this table here. I think we have an update as to the work that has gone into taking a look at this tree. Has somebody from the township been out there to take a look?
They came out and looked for the birds condition, and they didn't find anything, and they said they would keep checking.
So
Somebody did check
Yes,
Yes.
but they didn't find anything at the time, and they
at the
would keep
time,
checking.
at the time.
And they said
this
they-
conversation is around the table.
Okay.
Please.
Was that
let's
that
keep-
little
let's-
foreign car and the guy didn't even come over to me even though he saw that I was in my own yard?
Let's keep this conversation with members of the table.
I'll wait till the public portion.
Absolutely. It is your right to do that, but we might solve it before we get to that point. The condition of the trees, the two trees, they're growing into each other, correct? You've been to the
I
site?
understand, yeah, well, I went over there and I did look at it. Quite frankly, the way I see it, like, the two, again, hindsight is always, you know, but the whole point
They're
of
planted too close
they were
together.
too close together in the very first place, and I don't even understand how they were planted that way.
There's also one tree that is leaning slightly towards the direction of the street. Can we take down the tree that's leaning, that is interwoven with this tree?
I think they were in the same situation that we were with the previous tree now, until we come up with some type of policy. And all that, so if the township committee wants one of those trees to come down, then please direct, the superintendent to have one of them down, put it in writing, so he's covered. That's exactly where we were the last time.
Okay.
So, if the committee is in favor of doing that, that's fine. But this way here, we're not, although township committee is in agreement, we still need that policy.
Yes,
But I'm
absolutely. And
trying
that's,
to avoid us getting caught in a position where every week we're gonna have somebody coming in here wanting to have a tree down.
and that is what we are supposed to be discussing here, not a specific issue. But the issue has been brought up. It's on the table here. Can we take care of this issue? Does anyone have a problem with taking the tree down that is leaning, that is interwoven with this other one, which is creating a significant amount of bird activity and bird waste? Okay, so I'll do this officially. My motion is to remove the tree that is the more easterly tree with the leaning trunk, and it's pretty easy to see which one is leaning and which one is probably causing an issue. Out of that, what's the address?
92.
92
Madison.
92 Madison, to eliminate this problem that has been causing. And I've been to your house and I've seen the droppings on the ground. I haven't seen the dead animals, but so motion to remove that tree. Do I have a second? All right. Roll call.
Committeeman Fontaine?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavassi?
Yes.
Committeeman Basham?
Yes.
Committeeman Warren?
Yes.
Committeeman Kevin?
Yes. Okay.
So that's.
Now that's one.
Isn't that a second tree? One that was-
What these are the two trees?
But that was
So-
the tree of the.
Last time,
Yeah.
So
That's where-
policy wise, the issue is we need to have a method to address these concerns without them coming to the township committee, because that's not what we're supposed to do here. We're supposed to set up the rules, and then our employees, our departments that they interface with, are supposed to follow those rules and regulations to their best. So we need to, I think, come up with a list of the types of trees that we're allowing to be planted in the median or that strip. We need to also come up with a program to start planting more trees in Rochelle Park.
Sorry, I have the number of the Office for Public Service.
Yes.
And I think that it would be smart to utilize, at least get recommendations from Public Service as to what kind of trees we should be planting. Because we all have to deal with this every like 4 or 5 years when Public Service comes in and they literally destroy a lot of these trees because they're growing into the wires. So I would think that that might be one of the steps.
How about Mr. Connery?
I think this is, that's fine too, I understand. It seems to me that with the arborist himself, that's from public service. I think we should at least have a
But
conversation.
does the arborist that's doing the trimming of the tops of the trees also know about the impact that the roots and the base of the tree is
Yeah,
causing?
obviously, this arborist service requires, however, he certainly, you know, he's an arborist. He certainly knows all the issues.
All right, so do we want them at a public meeting, or can we have them in as a committee?
I think PSCNG has guidelines on their website,
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I asked them to go policy,
Sorry, most of the trees, so where to plant them. I think PSCNG probably has guidelines on
So can you call them in to meet with you? Discuss this process. If you want to pull in a member or two of the township committee, or at least notify us when, when this is happening, so we can have some type of input or at least familiarity with the direction that we're going. And hopefully by next work session, we can have a proposal as to what we're going to do going forward.
My two concerns about the policy or proposal is that we don't replace sidewalks. That's on the homeowner. If we're going to start a policy where we're going to be taking down trees, around town, my concern is where the money's going to come to pay for this program. Can we include the policy some kind of revenue that should be coming in to pay for this? Otherwise, it's going to become the taxpayer to cut down the trees, but we tell them to pay for your own sidewalk. I just want to.
I mean, in addition to that, I think there could be even a method that we allow for residents to request a tree and pay for a certain portion of that tree. Like
It's got to have some kind of revenue.
So if that's the case, if they want a tree quickly, then we can go through that process. They can sponsor a tree program, something along those lines. So the answer is yes.
So that takes care of that.
Yes.
But removal of trees is part and parcel of the issue we have as well. And again, I brought this stuff up the previous meeting. We have residents who have issues with trees where they're having, with their lines going into their homes. Okay, where they have to, plumber to have to clean out the lines, over a period of time. And you don't pay for that. Okay, because you get those things.
Is it a property?
And so you do have people, they're all time.
I remember the email we just got recently?
So the whole thing is, I want the tree gone. So.
And not replanted.
No, because it's right over their sewer system.
Yeah, so the whole thing is, when we're talking about trying to remove these trees, it's because it gets very complicated. And at what point is it going to become costly? It's exactly, it's going to be very costly, because there's a lot of people
Well, right
who want
now-
the trees until there's a problem with the tree.
Right.
Well, we made 2 exceptions the last 2 weeks. Other than that, the policy is then if the tree is dead, it'll come down. Other than that,
Correct.
it's not.
Right.
Yeah, so if a homeowner comes and wants the tree because it's uprooting something and it's not dead, is the question, right?
Well, are we,
That's the tree from last time.
I mean, that's the policy that we're gonna have to.
And who pays when it's a big, huge tree?
Well, that's
So-
the thing. Can we just give the permission to
Gotta have
take it
some
down and
kind
then?
of money come in.
But there has
That pays?
there has to be the process.
yeah, because
of
our
them
our
request-
sidewalk project program every year is over $10,000, just, yeah, that's what it is.
And it gets chewed up like that.
Yeah, and we can't keep up with it. So,
So we're not ready to move forward with this right now, so we have to talk about the types of trees, we have to talk about the look of the town, the future of the town.
So can we just keep this on the agenda so we can make sure that we start nibbling away at it? You'll meet with the PSCNG and the arborist?
yeah.
And let us know when that meeting is, so if anyone wants to
Everybody wants to attend next time.
learn about trees, they have to come in. Absolutely. All right. Disciplinary policy, Mr. Rotolo.
So, we had some discussions about our personnel manual and the disciplinary procedure that's in there and whether to apply to, specifically to volunteers. Just by way of background, our personnel policy used to be adopted every year by resolution and distributed to the employees. A number of years ago, the Township Committee decided to codify it as a chapter of our code, so it didn't have to be done every year, but it could only be amended by way of ordinance. The personnel policy, which is chapter 27, in its definition or its applicability, says that it applies to volunteers among other classes of people, such as appointed officials and so forth. The disciplinary procedure that's in the ordinance only applies, as it stands right now, it says employees. It doesn't include those other people, such as volunteers. So, I prepared a simple ordinance based on our discussions, which amends the disciplinary procedure to specifically say it includes volunteers. So there would be a mechanism in place that would be consistent with how employees are disciplined if the Township Committee or the administrator felt that action should be taken based on the conduct of the volunteers. So it was a technical glitch in the ordinance because the ordinance in general applies to volunteers, but that section did not state that specifically. So I thought the easiest way to cure it would be to just say that that procedure applies to everybody that the rest of the code applies to.
So 27.6 it's referring to is the volunteers?
27.6, right, includes volunteers, among other people, appointed official, appointed parties and volunteers and employees. The subsection regarding disciplinary action just uses the word employee. So
Does this in any way bind us to go through a more lengthy disciplinary process for other people than it would be for just employees?
No, it applies the same procedure. And what it says is that even if, let's say, fire department has their own procedure for internal discipline, so that's separate and apart from this. This would say we could, you could take disciplinary action against a volunteer. It's cleaner this way because it's the same process.
So that gives us up to and including dismissal.
Correct.
It's the cleanest way to do it. It's the only way that it's fair.
Yeah, as long as the Township Committee acts on it.
Well, the one of the things that is important here is that this is not initiated by the Township Committee. So a member of the Township Committee can't go and bring charges against somebody. It has to be through the current and same process that the administrator has to go through currently. So there's no special treatment. There's no changes to the disciplinary process. It is something that is already a vetted process that we have existing in the town. The only clarification is that it applies to it. So is this ready for?
Yeah, we can introduce it, yeah. If you want to do it, we can do it next week, or next meeting.
Next meeting. Do you have any questions or concerns about this as it is? Okay, if there is any, please send it in a written form to the attorney and the administrator before our meeting so we can discuss it and make any changes if necessary, but I think it's ready to go. So please prepare that for next meeting. Okay, redeveloper pay to play.
I just thought it'd be a good time since we've got several redevelopment projects underway or possibly going to be underway, that we put a pay to play ordinance in place for redevelopers. Basically, it would contain a provision prohibiting redevelopers from soliciting or making any contribution to a candidate committee, or joint candidates committee of any candidate for elected municipal office in the Township of Roosevelt Park, a holder of public office having ultimate responsibility for the award of any of a redevelopment agreement or any PAC. Would include any of the companies and anyone that owns 10% more equity or ownership. It's also going to include their spouses and their children living at home. And basically he's going to put a pay to play on anyone that has an ultimate responsibility for the award of the redevelopment agreement.
Is this consistent with other pay to play ordinances that we have?
Yeah, I didn't register that. But, I mean, I should say it's similar to what we have. I put it
What about
under
zoning
chapter
or planning
84.
board applications?
I put it into chapter 84 because that's where we already have contracts.
Right.
In place.
But is this similar to what is currently exists?
It's similar, but this is more strict.
Does this include union contributions?
No, this union's not a redevelopment.
Yeah, but
Well, a PAC, if it's a PAC, yes.
Frank and Joe took from my union in 2014.
And that's covered in here?
So as far as redevelopers that are doing, if someone's gonna be a redeveloper in town, they can't make contributions to PACs. Committee candidates here, anybody with an ultimate responsibility here.
Yeah, and zoning board applications, you can't shake them down for contributions either.
So, Mr. Rotella, have you taken a look at this?
I did. Did this come, is this something that was adopted in another town? Did you get, it is something.
Mhm.
So, and this would
What town is
apply,
it from?
No, I'm not gonna look from here. Berkeley Heights, maybe?
but it's just intended for redevelopers because that, they have a contract with the town and that will be the rationale. Because some towns have disclosure ordinances that also, if any applicant before any board has to disclose.
I don't think we have a disclosure clause here.
I don't think, you said we don't.
I don't think we
Yeah, I
do.
don't think so either. So, I mean, that would be something,
So basically, anybody that's gonna enter into redevelopment agreement here would get a copy of this, would be presented with a copy of this, so that they know, and they have to certify to us that, yes.
it's solicited or maybe, or they didn't make any contributions to the elected officials.
Correct.
So is this this is not ready as the.
Yeah. We were just talking, I think it might actually be in the redevelopment agreement. That's been draft, the draft agreement that's out there, so. But I'll check. I mean, it doesn't preclude us from doing this, but I think it may be in there.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Again, I know it is, I remember seeing it.
I want it to be congruent with whatever is either in the redevelopment agreement or this needs to be included in the redevelopment agreement as well. We shouldn't have two differing.
It should be consistent with one another.
Yeah, but where'd you get the wording for the redevelopment agreement? From the redeveloper? We didn't put that in, did we?
No, we did.
We put that in?
Yeah, that's the initial draft is our draft. We sent it out.
What's the last redevelopment we had in town before this one?
We never had any. Yeah, this is the first, as far as I know, and since I've been here, we haven't had any redevelopment.
So who wrote this one for Berkeley Heights? Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, it has to be consistent. I think it's important that we have similar language, the same language in both of the places, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I'm not gonna base this on what was in the first redevelopment agreement. This is to bind all the future ones that we have coming. I'm saying, based on what he's saying, he wants this to be consistent with what's already there. No.
If we are doing something and we have a redevelopment agreement, the language that's in here should be the same language that's going in the
I
retail
mean, we
zone.
could just, what we would do really is we would just, if you're gonna adopt this, we would just refer to this in the redevelopers agreement. Because that's gonna take a while before it's finalized anyway, so.
Did you read the first one?
I don't know, you gave me that thing like the day before that meeting, that you haven't had it.
You say it's better, you say it's better,
It was long.
and you haven't, did you read it?
I read most of it, yeah.
Okay. But, I mean, I don't know if it's better or not, but it should be consistent, so.
So what are we doing with that?
So we're going to prepare something that is going to work in both future redevelopment agreements
Yeah, I
and
think it-
our, our ordinance.
Probably warrants, I'll draft it, I'll put it in our format and everything. And then maybe you want to try to adopt, introduce it at the next meeting, or you want to have a further discussion next month?
I mean, the cleanest way that we can do this, it seems like this is a little bit wordy, but if it's, wordy's not necessarily always.
Maybe see what the
So do you
word
want
is
ambiguous?
and narrow it
Yeah,
to one
yeah.
and don't
Maybe-
do.
You don't want vague and
Maybe
ambiguous.
we should just draft it and discuss it at the next
Yeah.
work session, so we don't just do it quick. Because maybe we want to expand it to include some disclosure obligations below. It's a little different, because it's not a contract. Yeah, it's along the same lines.
All right, so for future meetings, for introduction.
Yeah, we'll take language from that, put it in. Right, that's what I'm saying, there's more language put into, to have more thorough language put into that. So
Or
you
have them
can-
refer back to us.
Right, so is there something, can you share something with this activity in the next week to 10 days, just so we can see for ourselves and understand that and then.
All right. Any other discussion on that? Extra fire truck. So, Mr. Dodgenik, you were going to talk about some of the avenues to sell these larger pieces of equipment. Also, maybe we have an update. Do we have an update on the sale of the?
We didn't win the lottery.
All right, so we didn't. So we have to disperse the pieces of equipment.
Yep.
Okay.
We didn't win the FEMA, we weren't on the list of awards for the FEMA assistance to firefighters for 2018. Yeah, not even with that.
Okay, so we have a piece of equipment that needs to go on the market. So what's the best and highest value that we can?
The highest, the value range that I was given from the seller, he said we could probably get between 12,000 to 18,000 for it. I looked on their website and there's a 1990 Pierce Lance listed on there for 19,500. So obviously, if you want to list it at the same site, you want to be under that guy. So I mean, I would propose selling through the listing it on this dealer and Fund and Fire for 17,500.
All right, so it's listed, is that on Gov Deals? Or
Well, no, this is,
is that a subsidiary? All right,
so deals is where we normally.
So we're not putting this on Gov Deals. You're
No,
going
the
to-
range.
What's the website that you're?
Fund and Fire.
Fund and Fire.
So these are the settled auctions for fire equipment, and the closest in each. The 1992 E1 sold for $5,000. A 1990 emergency one cyclone sold for $7,740. The 92 drum and fire cat pumper sold for $7,500. So I think these values are a lot lower than what we should probably get. Yeah, but this is actual sales from government. These are very low.
All right, so let's, can we prepare the paperwork to sell that piece of equipment? Do we have to have a time frame? Do we have?
Need to make a motion and all?
You need to value it, make sure that.
Well, they would list it for a week asked him to list it. And he gave me the range, it's 12 to 18,000.
So
They said whatever, we'll list it for whatever, yeah. They get a 10% of whatever it sells for. But I think their range is a lot better than we're gonna get ourselves.
So what are you thinking, Mark, under the 18, or is it 19.5 or 19.9?
The closest one to us is 19.5, so I would say going at 17.5.
So who's the person that's going to value this? Is there an expert or a dealer that would be able to do this? I mean, we're not gonna discuss it around the table here.
No, I'm just saying, but are they gonna charge us $500 to evaluate this thing?
We have somebody. Every day.
Between 12 and 18,000, right? So I mean, it's somewhere in between there.
That's what it could sell for a dealer.
But that's the value. That's what he wants to find out. In other words, just doesn't want to say 7,000.
Well, they're gonna list it for whatever we're comfortable listing at. I mean, you can put $100,000 on there, but it ain't gonna sell. They're giving us a realistic range.
Just to make sure that that's what
all I want to do is I want to have somebody who's familiar with selling this type of equipment to take a look at it and value the piece of equipment, so we're not putting it up just because we thought of a price. So,
We probably need to check to see if there's a state contract for that kind of sale procedure. Something that's authorized. Sell unneeded vehicles or property.
We've been using gov deals for all the kinds of stuff that we have. From police seizures, we use it for everything. Police seizures, bicycles.
Sold some.
Gov deals is where we typically don't sell it. But that's because the buyer pays the commission. But no, I'm saying it's because of the professional broker. They specifically just sell emergency equipment. So that's where you want us to.
We'll check with the just to make sure we're not. I understand it's been done for the board levels.
Just special.
If towns in New Jersey listed on there, it's not sure it's illegal.
Yeah, it's probably. We've also been told that we can utilize other purchasing groups out of state. Okay, I'm just.
right, that's fine. Let's find out more information and, we can get it on the market. All right, so the next item on the agenda is agenda setting procedures. So this is something that I asked to have on here. You know, our normal process to set the agenda is generally a discussion between myself and the clerk to set the agenda for a Friday that gets disseminated to members of the township committee. I don't think we've missed a Friday this entire year.
Yeah.
I think you have. It's a very good.
Okay.
So in the last 6 months, I don't think we've missed a Friday release of the agenda for review for members of the township committee. After they are given a chance to review, Monday morning, we ask for, solicitation of additional items or response or adjustments to the agenda. Most of the time, those adjustments are made. With the time frame of approximately 12 o'clock, usually by 2 o'clock. On most Mondays, that agenda is released and posted to members of the public for the agenda, which is meant to be on Wednesday. So 2 days ahead of time, more than the 48 hours that we recommend by the state, state recommendations or standards. So that is how we go about setting the agenda. If there's any other items that come to knowledge of the township committee, those can be added, but they're usually added at the time of meeting with notification of the clerk and possibly the mayor. So last meeting, we had an item that was not on the agenda, and I was questioned as to why it was not on the agenda. So I'd like to kind of give some background information. As of Monday, there was no suggestion for Women's Equality Day as a proclamation. The clerk received an email. The clerk received an email from Mr. Bodnick on Tuesday, the 27th, so a day before the meeting, at about noon, and it was to the clerk and the deputy clerk, and it states from Mr. Bodnick, Liz, please print up this proclamation for Linda to sign and be read at the coming meeting. I already ran it by Linda and Michael. It wasn't myself, so I'm assuming it was Mr. Warren, was it?
I did see, yes, I did see it.
And they supported it. And good thing we have it. Agenda placeholders now. Thanks, Mark. And P.S. Happy belated Women's Equality Day. So that was the.
I found that because I found
right.
it on Tuesday. So
there you go. That's fine. Up to this point, perfectly fine. However, the meeting opened. We had time for the agenda to be adjusted, and there was no discussion of this. At any point, did you reach out to me to address this issue or add it to the agenda? Okay. Did you call me at all?
no.
Okay. Ms. Boniface, did you reach out to me to discuss this issue with the agenda?
Because I'm too busy looking at the important stuff.
Okay. So,
And I work from 6 to 2:30.
if I'm not notified of an item that is potentially going to be on the agenda, how can I be criticized for?
I'm sorry, Michael, your feelings hurt.
I love your
Are your feelings
professionalism.
hurt?
This is the reason why we're up here as a committee. You left 2 people off of this email. You did not consult Mr. Labasi. So working up here as a team is really one of the things that I'm glad you're embracing. So that is my discussion about this topic. If you want to add anything to it, if you want to change the procedures for adding to the agenda, then I am glad to discuss those items. But I was criticized for something I had no knowledge.
You were criticized for us
Oh,
having a
I
proclamation for
cracked
women.
a joke with
No.
them.
That's what you were.
I cracked
I
a
was
joke with them.
criticized
No, it is
because
women's equality.
The
My wife supports them.
the statement was that, or the implication was that I left it off of the agenda on purpose. And what's that?
I didn't say that.
I did.
Okay. So as long as it's submitted and we had an apology, I'm okay with that. So I accept your apology for non-informing. So we're good to go.
Where's the rose garden?
Any other discussion on this issue?
Yeah, why don't you
All right.
set the agenda the Wednesday before
Can
and finally on
silence
Friday?
your father defending you?
All right. So attorney's report.
We've covered a number of these items. 49 East covered pending tax appeals. I compiled a list of all pending tax appeals, sent them on to everyone, just so you know where we stand. I'm trying to fine tune it a bit so you know what the exposure is. I'm working with the assessor, but I don't have that finished. But you at least know the volume of appeals that are pending. 70 West Passaic, somebody made an inquiry at either a meeting or an email as to what the status of that property was. And I found that there is a pending application before either the zoning or the planning board regarding that site. That's the Rumba Cabana approval. They've now filed an amended application, so that's pending.
They can't.
Yeah, they had scheduled a special meeting, which was canceled, but the application's still pending, so.
Joe, with this application at Rumba Cabana, we got an email about not talking to anybody at the zoning board. In the year in the 12, 20 months that I've been sitting on the council, I've never gotten an email about any application before the zoning board. Can you tell me where that came from?
My email?
Yes. You want me to
Because-
read it?
No, I remember the email because we've discussed that application, I mean,
Correct.
that site.
But
But
why
now that
that
there's-
one and none others in all the time?
Because this really hasn't happened before, where we discuss an application that's been approved. We talk about what's happening with it, and then we find out that there's a pending
It
application,
was
so.
not, it was never approved. It was pulled
No, it was
long before.
No, there was an approval granted to that.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah.
It was, I was on
Wow,
it.
it was a long
I
time
was on
ago.
the zoning board.
So my suggestion to you, which I said earlier about the other, one of the other sites, if there's a pending application, we really should talk about it, because the board's gonna judge it, and they're gonna make a decision. I know we've said we were anxious to see that place get built, but now that there's an application, we shouldn't really be saying that we're anxious to see it built, because it's before another board.
Since it was canceled, is there an application?
Oh, yeah, it's still pending. They haven't, as far as I know, they haven't withdrawn the application. The meeting was canceled.
Okay,
So
so they've
it's still
applied
pending.
for some revision thing
Correct.
to go in front of the zoning board.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, if they withdrew it, that's a different story, but I don't think that's what happened. I think for whatever reason, the meeting was canceled.
I
It was
just
a-
found it awfully unusual that we're gonna get an email about this one application when all applications go before the board and
Yeah,
things change.
we never talk about,
No, because I don't go to people
Right,
on
no.
the zoning board and, do I
Agreed.
wanna see the restaurant open? Sure I
Sure,
do. I'm not gonna tell you that. I wanna see 120 built also, but I'm not gonna go pounding people.
Well, I want to make sure we don't express any opinions about a pending application, because that's not proper, so.
But councilmen, mayors can solicit donations from the owners of property. That's proper?
No, I didn't say
Okay,
that,
all right, just asking. Just asking.
but that's why that was on there. The billboard zoning and 120 West Passaic, we already spoke about. Mac Cali, I guess there was some correspondence over a pending tax appeal. And Westfield, nothing new. I mean, there's an application that's in the works.
Is that for the building thing behind it? What's
There's gonna be an application made in Paramus for modification to the mobile expansion mall. But it hasn't been made yet.
Are we gonna be,
When they have a final plan, I've spoken to them, and they're going to meet with us to explain what their plan is, but they don't have it finalized yet.
Are they gonna close off the entrance to
Yeah.
the plaza?
I have no idea what they're doing or where it is.
All right,
thank you.
thank you. Any questions for this one? All right, next up, anything in correspondence? Tree recovery program and old business. Grant writer. Discuss new business.
Okay, resolution payment of bills September. We have authorizing agreement with Bergen County Department of Health Services for 20 and 21. We've got authorizing release of performance bond ADPP and authorizing Rochelle Park Police Department's participation in program 1033 to request and acquire excess department and defense equipment. It's at no cost, it's surplus equipment. And I'm gonna add introduction amendment to chapter 27 and possibly fire prevention salary ordinance. And then one last one, revised Bergen County multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, which I never sent. That's all I have so far.
Okay, committee reports, Mr. Todd.
Excuse me, I think I go first.
Oh,
I'm trying to go, I apologize. I'm
No.
not taking
Sorry, I
it.
didn't say myself.
I could actually afford you sometime, just real quick if I can. The DPW contract, is going to be up at the end of the year. Our labor attorney contacted the union. Within the next couple of weeks, we should be getting some form of formal demands from the union. So as far as how you want to proceed, if you want to develop a committee for that particular negotiations, so that you're aware of it, so that you can get ourselves moving. I'd like to be able to, all this stuff, I'd like to really get done prior to us getting moving forward with the budget this week, even though exactly what we are. So make life a lot simpler. The only other thing I just want to bring up to you this evening, because we'll pass this around if you don't mind. Public service, they're asking for our support. They want to do LED street lighting. I've been in communication with public service over the last couple of months pertaining to this particular issue. They want to petition the BPU, and they're asking for our support, so that this way here, that we can be part of that petition. So, quite honestly, I think it would be, if in fact we can move forward. We have right now 390 lights that would be replaced. Right now, what we're using is called the high pressure sodium lighting, is what we have in there now. But it happened quite a while ago, so much about this particular project, because I actually did the project when I was a patrolman many moons ago with public service. We replaced all the incandescent lights with this type of lighting. Then what happened was they came out and we had, a lot of you may see them in various towns, but they have the green hooded lights that are up there. You know, if you take a look at the poles, you'll see they have the green heads on them. And that was the next set of lights that came out, but because we had already done everything, so everything is calculated out over a period of years, in order for them to make up the cost. So now we're in a very good position to be able to move forward with this type of lighting, the LED lighting. So I'm just asking for the township committee to.
This is just a strict replacement.
So this would replace all of our street lighting.
Would they do like a lighting survey to see if we need additional street lights?
What I can do is,
part of the project?
what I can do is something very similar to what I did probably 20 years ago. And where I literally drove around with public service, hit all the various areas.
Yeah, we can get some additional street lights and some dark streets.
Right. But that's something that certainly can be done, but first step here is the township committee is in favor of us being put on this petition.
Yeah, we think.
No, basically what I want to.
You'll pay for it. They're asking the BPU because they're gonna have to increase the rate to pay for it.
Well, what they do is it's transferred over a period of time. Actually, for us, it's probably being about 5% savings for us. Just for because they look at it over
These will have features such as dimming and local control and on and off schedules. You'll be able to control them better.
And then it also makes it like that's out for us to be able to know where it is to have it replaced. So I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of this. So yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always speak about it for next week. I'll speak about it.
Now we can do committee input.
Right, since I got skipped on, I was trying to talk about the agenda setting procedure. It would be nice if we circulate the agenda the Wednesday before the meeting, get everybody's feedback, so that like that Friday, we can maybe hopefully have a finalized agenda. So this way, if anybody wants to do any like reading about the topic over the weekend, they can. You circulate it on Friday. Sometimes it's late on Friday. Sometimes people submit their ideas, get added on, and that feedback doesn't come back until Monday. And then we have a finalized agenda on Monday, and frankly, a bunch of us are busy working. We don't have time to go reading about anything that's added on Monday that we didn't ask it to get added. So I think we should be trying to set the agenda Wednesday, the week before Wednesday, and then finalize it by Friday. This way there are really any changes. I don't think it's a horrible idea. Other towns can set their agenda way in advance. We set it by Monday, and we think we want an award for it.
Last week, we didn't get stuff to the last minute, and again, today, I didn't get something that we could have had sooner if we do the agenda.
And like the redevelopers agreement, that was like a very long document, and if I had known that that was going to be on the agenda the Wednesday before, then it would have said, by Friday would have said, where's the redevelopment agreement? Let me read it over the weekend. Instead, it's on the agenda about Friday, and then I get it like Tuesday. Just saying, I want to see the stuff get finalized ahead of time. That's it.
No, I think you could use some more time, especially to read some of the longer documents.
And we had a couple months just now where we only had one meeting a month. So that means we had 4 weeks to set the agenda for the following meeting. So we shouldn't be doing it in 3 days. That's it.
This is awesome. I have nothing to say.
Okay, so we're talking about today, I'm gonna bring this up. We're talking, Mr. Botchnick wants to introduce the developers pay to play. And when I first got elected to Rochelle Park Township Committee, I had somebody gave me a very good piece of advice, and that advice was, Linda, just follow the money. And then, because I ran for election, I had to file these election reports. And if you go on, this is if anybody's not busy and they want to look this stuff up, go on New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission. And you can look up any candidates from this town, and you can look them up for years. And you can find out who got money, who they got it from, and what they did with it. And it's very interesting how money came from owners of businesses, professionals that work here, developers, or someone who put up a billboard. You know, it's disgusting. And I'm going to be picked on because my union donated to me an organization I've been a member of for 30 years, not 3 years, 30 years. Who I myself, money came out of my paycheck to put into that fund. But anyway, on a lighter note, the DPW street sweeper has been out of service for 2 weeks. It's out being repaired. There are metal shavings in the hydraulic fluid. The repair shop is looking for the source of the metal shavings. The crew has been busy doing catch basin cleaning, sewer flushing, along with the usual lawn maintenance. Recycling, don't forget, we're now recycling plastic bags, produce and bread bags, grocery bags, cereal bag liners, ice bags, Ziploc bags, case over wrap. That's like on the cases of water, the wrap, plastic wrap, newspaper sleeves, dry cleaning bags, plastic shopping bags, bubble wrap. This is collected. There's a collection box here in the municipal building and one at the school. The plastic bags are then recycled to make Trex, composite decking, and railings. The recycling the plastic adds to our recycling tonnage grant, which we get money back to pay for our recycling. So it helps the town every which way. It's like a little bit of tax relief. And don't forget, Saturday, September 28th, right here in the municipal parking lot, is the shredding event from 9 to 12 noon. This is a quick and easy way to get rid of old paperwork instead of burning out your shredder at home. I hope to see you there. After all the hoopla in town, no pun intended, at Carlock Field, the old snack bar, the backboard and hoop are being replaced. And we are also currently looking at the possibility of purchasing a movable half basketball court for the area under the trees. I know this is a little ways off, but the next event for recreation will be the Ragamuffin Parade on Saturday, October 26th. There's a little change with this. The new start time is 5:30 p.m. at the William Street parking lot behind the Midland School. It will take the same route, Chestnut to Verdun to Thien, and end at Carlock Field. where there will be DJ music and refreshments. Wear your costumes. There will be a decorated jack-o'-lantern contest. Drop your jack-o'-lanterns off between 4 and 5 on the 26th. Prizes will be awarded. And I hear there will be some light up giveaways. Join us. Also, join us helping those in need. There will be a collection of non-perishable food items for Helping Hands Ministries. That's all. Thanks for attending, everybody.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
Happy back to school season for everyone. The stigma-free seminar from the health department is going to be on September 28th from 8 to 4 inside the senior center. Midland School has sent out the flyer to sign up, since this seminar is geared toward the education in terms of mental health awareness for adolescents. Mr. Alberta, that flyer was sent out last Thursday to parents. We have people already signed up. Seats are limited. If you do want to attend, you can email me at mwarren@rochelleparknj.gov. The food is going to be sponsored by the RPEA. I'm looking forward to the event. I hope it's worthwhile. Soccer opening day was this past weekend. I was saying here that a lot of the coaches and the volunteers are stepping down, and that there could be a lack of people interested in being involved. So I'm hoping that's something we can figure out how to boost involvement for that, because it really is a nice day, and the kids like it a lot. For building department, we hired the property maintenance person tonight to continue that. If you see construction happening in town, don't be afraid to email the building department to let us know, because we want to make sure people have the proper permits, and the permits change each year. Certain things don't need permits, where certain things do now. But if you ever see some kind of construction happening, don't be afraid to email or call or report it. Anne Marie has the list of people who are having construction done, and if there is something that is not right, we can send the property maintenance person to investigate into whether or not there should be a permit, obviously. That is all for my report.
Okay, just on top of the construction site thing.
Yes.
Last meeting we did talk about it. You weren't here, right? But I was going to ask the administrator if he can make sure that the building department reviews all of the active construction sites. There's some that have dumpsters and garbage cans and excessive amounts of waste, to make sure that all of those sites where there's activity are properly permitted.
I'll actually speak to, see if they can help me probably maintenance. Since he's what goes out there, I guess that should probably be the best bet. Just report back to the department.
Okay, that'd be great. And could we also have a report on that next meeting as to the results?
Yes, that's fine.
If there were any sites that were found that were.
I hope to have a report like I've been giving you the last couple of months from the construction official. I'm not the construction official, but from the property maintenance person.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, thank you for coming, everyone. We had 100% attendance for the township committee at the soccer opening day. All members were there. It was great, great event. If you look at the full support of the township committee for that program and all of the programs that are running through the town, I think it's great to have that support and visible support on those days. The same thing with the 9/11 ceremony that we just had prior to this meeting. 100% of our township committee was there. So it makes me really proud to be part of the team that works together and keeps everyone informed. So thank you very much for that honor of working with you. And that is my report. Anything else from the attorney?
No,
Okay, clerk's report. Okay. Seeing no other reports, let's move into public. Does anyone want to open to the public?
Okay.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right.
4:30 comes around early.
First up was back corner over there.
Diane Verhassel, 40 Cars. Just a couple questions. You had a couple meetings ago, announced that a letter was sent to all the people with the basketball hoops to remind them that there was an ordinance that they shouldn't have them by the curb. I still see many of them out. I was wondering at what point that ordinance is going to be enforced.
May I? Sure. Actually spoke to the administrator about that because I did see some hoops out. And I know that the ordinance itself doesn't have a direct person to give out the infraction, whatever. Would there be a problem with having the property maintenance person add this to their list of infractions to be able to warn?
Well, they already received letters, supposedly.
Yeah.
So just to have that person be enforced.
I have no problem with that. Through our legal counsel, who would normally be enforcing something that was not necessarily of a, like a criminal nature? Would it be a property maintenance? I mean,
it could be. I mean, the police have the authority to enforce all ordinances, but normally it goes to, if it's that kind of, sort of property maintenance related issue, which I would kind of characterize it as, it could be done by property maintenance.
Actually, I went, in all honesty, I went out there today just to double check and see what, what was out there, and yes, there are still several of them out there. And I spoke to Anne Marie about it, and we will be having the property maintenance man. Again, what will have to happen, the whole that I sent that, because that letter was sent from myself, signed by me. So the property maintenance man will go out, take a look, whoever's out there will get another notice that they have to be removed. And if it's a be a warning, and if they're not removed after 10 days, then it's on the vehicle.
But what the code says now? It says remove it or get a fine, right?
Yeah, well, I believe it says that, right? I think so.
So why don't you just?
To remove it,
Well, we
correct?
So, I mean,
we
general
gave the grace
concept is
period.
given the 10.
Can't you just let the police write the regular ticket?
And it
The
was,
way it gets done, because
Wasn't
otherwise
what
you're
they
gonna
put-
go warning after warning after warning.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so it'll be,
This is weeks after warning.
this would be the second, this would be the second one, but that warning is coming from the property maintenance. In order for him to violate, in
It
order
would
for
be
him to
the
do a
orange tag,
violation,
not the yellow tag.
he has to actually see, visibly see it
Right.
himself.
was it ever made clear that they can play there, they just can't leave it there when they're
You
not
just can't
playing?
leave it there. It just can't be left there.
I don't know if that was clear in the letter.
So they can put it
Well,
on the
but-
curb and play, the kids can play in the street, is that what you're saying? The
We're
ordinance
not
is-
authorizing anybody to play in the street.
Oh, he just said they could.
No, we're not authorizing anybody to play in the
If it's
street.
placed at the curb, where else would they be playing? I'm just trying to understand, because Mr.
We're not
Lobata said-
authorizing.
We're not.
Yeah, we're not authorizing.
If a
We're
parent
not
wants to authorize their own child, that's up to the parent.
So we're saying it's okay. When they move it, okay.
I played in the streets since I was a kid.
I know, I'm
But the
just,
streets weren't busy like they are now. I'm just saying.
So I will ask that the administrator deal with this issue the way he feels it's necessary to be dealt with. And that is, I think he spelled out his plan. I think one of the steps is that you have to issue a warning,
Yes.
but it has to be an official person who is responsible for, I guess, handling those issues. So that's why a
Unless you
warning.
want me to.
Then the person that gets
issue
fined it is
the
gonna come back and contest it and say, the ordinance says nobody enforces it.
Right.
So if it comes from the property maintenance guy.
I don't think the ordinance says nobody enforces it. There's
It's not written
no-
under anybody,
So
it's not written with anybody who enforces it.
you don't have to identify who enforces it. It just needs to be taken care of. That's really important.
And Bob's point, I think, is that whoever does issue it has to go out and see it himself. And then issue it, because people can test it, even if they actually go to court and testify. I saw it, so. Could be
And
violent.
then the judge.
I mean, unless you want me to go out there and.
Okay, all right, so, thank you, all right.
All right, my other thing wasn't just, I don't know the person that Nick was recommending, but when he said this person can only be available at night, I just have a question. You're gonna have a part-time building inspector at night. I mean, like, we have all these buildings going up, and I don't see him inspecting across the street with a flashlight. I mean, I don't mean to be funny, but that's kind of what it sounds like. He said he could only be available, I think he said 2 or 3 nights.
Yeah, again, that's the reason why I had Nick come out here tonight, to explain the fact that the construction official does not do the inspections. That we have our inspectors that actually go out and do that particular work.
He does the paperwork.
So the whole point of the matter is that was one of the reasons why I don't really think it's necessary for us to put somebody in that position on a full-time basis, because that person's not gonna be out there looking at every brick that goes up.
So
Okay,
the part-time person is just gonna say, go check out these places, in other words?
No, we need to have somebody that oversees the department. And that person will be in charge of that department. And he has all of his inspectors fall under him. And when the various inspections have to be made, they do the inspections and report back. So the fact that this person's not going to be here
Didn't Nick go out and
during
do
the day.
those inspections though?
Pardon me?
When people had housing stuff, I know Nick went out and did the inspections.
Again, that's why we have it,
There wasn't other people he did.
for what? I don't know what it was for.
For roofs, for buildings.
Quite honestly,
for
he was here, we
construction.
should have asked the question when he was here, so we could have gotten it clear. He didn't speak. I think we gave him a quick answer, but I didn't speak about that.
Well, I can only tell you that anything, I don't know about construction, like across the street kind of construction, but anybody that had housing work, you did something to your house, Nick is the one who went to your house, just like Boland did before that. Bohan, whoever his name is. So my concern is that if the person we're gonna have part-time to replace him is only able to work at night, he's not gonna be able to go to people's houses, as Nick did previously, to say, they did a good job.
I am not aware of Nick going to anybody.
Well, that's what he did. He's come from a lot, anybody who did housework, he's the one who did the inspection. I can tell you a whole bunch of people that he did. My concern is that he can't do it at night, so if you're hiring somebody to do it at night only.
What we've done tonight is we've asked the administrator to create an interim solution for this issue and actually take a look at options going forward. If we are going to do a shared service or some other type of remedy for this situation. So I expect that we'll probably have a follow-up information.
When you post a job?
At the next meeting.
Yeah, hope to have something good for our next meeting, so.
And I just have a question, I'm not gonna try and bring up the whole fire prevention thing, but when Mr. Demott was talking about the fines equaling, they collect X amount and that goes towards salaries and stuff, I was very confused by that, because when the police department gives tickets or whatever, or like any of these fines you're talking about, they go to the town. They don't go back to the department, so why does?
That's the part that confuses me as well, and that's why
No, he's saying,
Nothing should be
no, what
considered
he's saying is, what he was saying was, he's saying that he covers his department.
Yeah, with fines though.
Yeah, it's like building department. The building department fees should be covering the salaries of everybody in the building department. And that's what he's trying to say.
But when the police department gives out tickets, it goes to the town.
There's a whole,
If it goes,
different, there's a different rules apply to certain departments like construction and fire.
So if there's a lot of construction going on now, and the fire prevention department collects a lot more money because there's a lot more inspections, are they going to be getting more money? Because they're collecting more money?
No, it's not based on, it's just based on what they do. They don't get a percentage of the money they collect.
they're budgeted.
Yeah.
And are they gonna be doing the kind of time sheets that you guys were talking about, where it doesn't just list, I did so many hours,
I don't know the answer to that.
it just seems different rules for different people. I would think that all departments should have the same rules. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
I'm not over here, Mike.
All right, I'll
You got Jimmy talking behind you.
I gabbled you down before. Come on up, Mr. Dingman.
All right. Dave Kingman, 92 Madison Ave. My apologies to the town and to the board for kind of getting a little steamy about it before.
No
And-
apologies necessary. I know
And,
you've been dealing with this.
and for lack of faith in the town, actually have been working on it that whole time. I should have realized that. I'm cautiously optimistic that with one tree down, that more workable management of a plot. I mean, with the 2 trees there was no way we can reduce it to a manageable size in the livable condition. I'm not a tree hater and I'm not a bird hater, but when I saw at least 200 birds coming out of the trees that day, that the fire truck was there for the gas leak thing, I finally understood why there was such a big problem. And I'm sorry I hadn't mentioned the dead birds, but I didn't want to do that.
That was the day that I saw the amount of birds. I was very surprised at how much.
The whole neighborhood. I think that one tree down, they're less comfortable to having that large of a,
Right.
and we'll see where we go from there. Okay. Thank you for your help.
Thank you. All right, any other, yes?
You've allotted 25 hours for property maintenance. Is that going to be on the weekends? This person's going to be out and about, or is it, how are the hours going to be on?
We didn't say.
No, it's
Not-
25 hours now. It's
25 an hour.
Oh, 25 an hour, okay. So how many hours a week are they going to be working?
I have to double check on that, I forget, it was like, he's only really working like 5 hours a week.
5 hours a week?
I believe that that's what,
Any other questions?
Behind you.
Yes. Can I clarify the question through you? Last meeting, you mentioned something about Maywood not having to do the handicap ramp. Now, you were talking about them not having to do it at all, not going through the paying of the funds and then getting reimbursed. You're talking about not, because I drove down and I saw that they didn't do anything. Okay, all right, I just want to make sure that was the.
I don't believe that is on Maywood Avenue either. It's a separate project, but I don't believe it's done on Maywood Avenue.
So we're still going to follow up with that. But I just want to make sure that what you were saying, what I was, that they weren't mixing when I drove down there. Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'll fully come to that. We're almost done.
2 things, I want to address. One about the excess fire truck. Fire. On the bidding that you're seeing on that site, there's many sites that do that. Just be aware of what is being bid and why. You're looking at timeframes of years. You mentioned a Pierce and a Grumman. You're talking about a Bentley and an Edison, as far as manufacturers go. Okay. Nobody's going to pay $17,000 for a 90-something Grumman. It's just not going to happen. There's a lot of other variables that need to be accounted there. Hours on the truck, hours on the engine, hours on the pump, size, type of pump, foam systems.
All the specs to the dealer, so that he can get you.
Well, I understand that, okay, but you're looking at similar trucks from on the government site from the same year. Okay, as you're looking at a price range, I believe one was 5,000, one was up to 9,000.
Yeah, those sold on a general government website though, so they weren't really marketed per se.
Okay, you also have to remember, and I know this falls into the gray area that's going to be looked at for how things are auctioned. In some parts of the state, the municipalities do not own vehicles or own by the fire department. So that's
When you're seeing something being sold by X town in New Jersey, it may not be a municipal vehicle being sold.
So they're not separately incorporated, so I'm pretty sure it's township property.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. There are towns, there are places in South, there are places in South Jersey.
It's a department of township.
Yeah, you have.
And we can debate that at another time. The other thing I have is, it was referenced earlier, about the pond across the street. Some of you may have seen my post. I referenced a post that was put in a group called We Ripon Burton County or something similar to that on Facebook. What it was a post by a person from Fairlawn that happens to drive down the street and sees the pond every day. And posted about the horrendous condition that pond is in. I've been in town, been alive in town for 54 years now. I've never seen that pond in that condition. It is horrendous. And as far as dead fish and dead turtles, I've been past it a few times. I've seen a live turtle. I haven't seen any fish in there, but something needs to be done. This is how our town is being presented to people outside our area. And I'm sorry for the people that like it. It's not the house. Nobody looks at the house. They see the pond. They pass that pond every single day.
We don't know that, Jim.
I know we don't know it, but something has to be, they have to be pushed to do something.
The power, were you here for when I asked Nicole about the power? That's what I come to believe, the power is shut off at
Yes,
this time.
power, the utilities are off.
Yeah.
That's a done deal. That was done when they took the building down.
Correct.
But there are other ways of not necessarily filling it. Either empty it out, get rid of all the garbage that's in there, that's laying around in there.
Why don't they do
Or have
property
them come in
maintenance?
and fill it. There are ways of filling.
Really?
Other ways of filling it. Or just asking them, say, hey, look, this is a property maintenance issue.
He just said property maintenance.
And it's
Very busy.
becoming a health issue.
Poor little guy.
It's been very busy. They can't do it because they have to work more than 5 hours.
Joe, has anybody met with one? Has anybody here met with 120 and talking about?
We exchanged some emails, they said they were sending somebody over, they did some work, but we do have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday of next week.
Tell him to get rid of the carrot.
I'm sorry, not Tuesday, Wednesday.
Did you forward an email to them that they're working to shoot that one?
That's what they said. As much as they should.
Any other questions? Anyone else? Okay. Right.
Okay, on this extra fire truck, I'm a little puzzled. This is the truck we loaned to Maywood that was no good and they used it. Is this the truck we're selling? Huh?
I think so.
Yes, this is the same.
Okay, this is a 19 what?
1990.
1990. What's the model?
E5360.
Huh?
E5360, I believe it is.
Was it a Pierce Arrow?
Pierce Lance.
What's wrong with it?
Sold.
What's wrong? It's a 1990. How many miles on it?
Jim, is that?
We got a 1 mile square
Compass
town.
around?
How many times can this truck go? Okay? Come on, let's talk. I called insurance companies up, so let's hear why we're getting rid of this truck. We loaned it to Maywood, yet it was no good here. How could they use that truck?
No, they fixed that truck several times, I believe.
But what I'm saying is, this truck, we bought the replacement for this truck. They held on to this truck for 1 year, and then they were gonna, to make sure the other truck was okay, and then now it's going to be sold. It's a surplus for us right now.
Yeah, but I'm saying, if we did the proper maintenance, we have a 1 mile square town. Okay, not like Hackensack, them trucks are out every day, right?
Even where I got the airport, I went to Warwick, to their fire department. Their fire department's got 30 miles back and forth, right? They got trucks older than we got. What I'm trying to say is, we've got all this equipment there, we spend what? How much on that new one, $1 million? What was wrong with the other, right? Come on. All you gotta do is add a little more insurance on it, and you can use it, okay?
So it's been repaired several times.
But why-
We've seen the repair bills are not cheap.
Yes, but wait a minute.
We don't need, it's the next, like, the
We
the
need
new
all
one was
that
bought,
equipment.
that new one
Come
was bought to
on,
replace
come
that
on,
one.
you're talking to somebody who's in business 38 years. I ran my equipment,
need to
my
keep an
plows worked harder than your fire
The
truck.
fact that we're referring to that as the extra fire truck means it's extra, so it's time. It's
We got a 1 mile square town.
It only had like, what was the mile?
Okay.
It's only like 30,000 or something?
30,000.
We bought a replacement 2 years ago, so this is the extra surplus one.
So, Roy, I think the concern is that, we're purchasing equipment too soon.
We should be maintaining it too, right?
Well, I think.
Well, you were in Hackensack, you saw that fire equipment, what they're working with.
So, just so I can clarify the concern, is that you think we're purchasing equipment too soon to replace the old stuff?
Well, don't make sense. I was told that you have to get rid of the truck, like people say, because it's 25 years old. That's a lie. The insurance company does not tell you you gotta get rid of that truck. It tells you you gotta put more insurance on that truck. Okay? So what I'm saying is, we spent $1 million. What would it have cost to make that other truck right?
650,000, Roy,
You know, right? For what? 50,000.
for the fire truck, not $1 million.
Oh, well, I was told $1 million.
Yeah, no.
Or even 650,000, all right? This is the stories we get, you know what I mean? It don't make sense.
All right, so, any other questions, Roy?
No, it doesn't, just doesn't make sense.
Just a comment, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roy. Yes.
Jeff Holtz, 82 Forest. The comment of the fire truck. Did you ever hear of planned obsolescence? Where do you get parts for a truck that's 20+ years old, no matter how well you take care of it? You can't plan on having parts on the shelf forever. You go to a fire, it breaks down, you turn around, you lose the guy's house, and they said, oh, it's because it's a simple little coupling, but it's obsolete, we can't get it anymore. No matter how well you take care of it, it ain't gonna last forever.
I didn't say it was last forever. But we got all brand new trucks here.
But that's what you're supposed to have. You're supposed to have
Well,
updated equipment.
go tell Hackensack that. They don't have all brand new trucks.
So,
Don't give me
any
that.
other comments, concerns, questions? All right, any other member of the public that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to. Okay. Any
You're absolutely right.
You know what I just bought?
My car's got 70,000 miles.
I went to the town of Warwick, buy a car, okay? So he says, can't sell it to you. We're gonna sell it for auction, okay? We'll tell the auctioneer, okay, the price. No, the price. So I have 30,000 miles, right? All right? Don't tell me this kid. Bullshit.
We're talking about, but you were talking about something that